Hi lovely viewers, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we are going to basically be talking about what significations can be seen based on the planetary transits that are taking place during the mid of November up until the end of December 2022. So basically the whole ending of the year, how is this 2022 going to wrap up for you? So these are the kind of themes we will be discussing for each and every zodiac sign. So we see that in general, the love life quotient will be much better during this time rather than it was during October, when all the planets were getting the sort of hard conjunction within the sign of Libra, where the Sun, Mercury, and Venus were present up until now in conjunction with Ketu. Which was creating these kind of challenges with regards to romantic relationships and even general relationships in different areas of life. So that is a good thing, and it's also good because it's coming into the sign of Scorpio, wherein it's getting that intensity energy and the passionate energy from the ruler of the sign of Scorpio, which is Mars. And this can be the sigh of relief which was needed in order to be bonding in relationships rather than becoming indifferent to them. So this is a really good omen for relationships for sure. It might be also in some cases, it might lead to some sort of endings in some, but definitely whatever transformations will be there in these kind of relationships will definitely be for the best, and it will work in the highest vibrational energy at this point, so that you can raise your frequency and you can basically progress and kind of move on further, which is a theme that is further accentuated by the fact that we very recently had two eclipses, which is the solar eclipse in Libra and the lunar eclipse in the sign of Aries. So all of these themes are basically telling us to let go of certain things, start the other things that are needed, and move forward in life with a new perspective of things. And we also see that Mars is going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Taurus. And what this tells us is that, because it's such a significant transit which will be happening from, November up until the March of next year. So the themes which are going to be prevalently seen here are the fact that how are you basically going to be investing your money right now? And that is going to be extremely important. And, we can also see the recent kind of falling out of these erratic sort of in investment strategies, wherein there's a lot of risk involved with things. Let's say the cryptocurrency market, wherein there's this huge fiasco between FTX and Binance and things like that, and we are seeing that there is this kind of push towards having these interest rate risen around the world with the banks, and how basically the economy is being pushed towards being able to invest in safer, secure investment strategies and assets. So that is definitely something which can also be seen here, wherein you can contemplate and reconsider the kind of investments you have been making at this point. Also, it is a really good time for travel, especially when Jupiter turns direct in the sign of Pisces, as well as after following that itself, we will see that a huge conjunction will be taking place of Sun, Mercury, and Venus in the sign of Sagittarius, which is also ruled by Jupiter. So this period is going to be definitely really good for you to travel and indulge in exploring vacations and that sort of a deal. But definitely the end of the year is not really great for traveling or just impromptu plans of vacationing, because Mercury is going to go retrograde at the end of the year. So this is going to pose certain challenges with regards to how you are traveling, what kind of efficiency of plans you will be able to execute with relation to the plans of travels that you have had until now. So these kind of themes can be also seen towards the end of the year. Also, another theme which can be seen towards the end of the year can be that because Venus is going to get conjunct with Saturn in the sign of Capricorn, we can also see that there will be a lot of challenges with regards to the kind of romantic quotient in relationships, wherein you can see that there might be certain challenges with regards to creating an effervescence of romance within relationships. So that definitely is something which can be also seen, and also because Mercury will be turning retrograde, so the communicational channels between couples can also become a little disrupted at that point. Also, with regards to the kind of information you're getting regarding monetary investments and things like that can also become quite warped. So you might be receiving these kind of messages within the news channels and things like that, wherein you really see the unraveling of certain sorts of the corrections of certain sorts of overhyped sort of investment strategies and things like that. So all these kind of themes are something that you will be able to see from the midway point of November up until the end of December. These are the kind of things that planetary energies are right now exhibiting and exacerbating. These are the general themes that will be experienced at this point. Also, a very important message is that after this video there will be a small hiatus on the channel, wherein I will resume to upload videos from the beginning of December, which is very important, that we will be whole month discussing very detailed analysis of how the yearly horoscope and yearly predictions for all of the signs are going to be like, and it will be a very detailed analysis, and there'll be a lot of special kind of guidances regarding what can you expect, what sort of things you can prepare yourself in advance right now regarding, and these are the kind of things we will be discussing. And definitely one thing that I want to see is, during this time, if you check this video out and you relate to something that has been shared in this video, I will definitely love to see your experiences being shared in the comment section, and upon the basis of that I will also want you to share your experiences and also recommend your zodiac sign in the comment section, so that I can pick out whichever zodiac sign has been mentioned the most, and we will start our yearly predictions from that sign. So whichever sign I can see has been mentioned the most in the comment section with your experiences regarding this period of the year, which is the predictions which were shared in this video, then we will be considering that and tallying up which is the most zodiac sign that is shared, and that will be where we will start the yearly predictions from for 2023. Now, I will also request you to not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because it's such an intensive video to produce and to be able to bring to you people. So I would really appreciate if you show some love to this video and definitely share your experiences in the comment section. Thank you so much, and let's get on with the predictions for each and every sign for the period from mid of November up until the end of December 2022. So Aries, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of the year 2022 is going to be like for you, based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio, and it's going to move out of the sign of Libra. Now, up until 11th of November, there was this huge conjunction that was happening in Libra, where all of these planets, Sun, Mercury, and Venus, were conjunct Ketu, which was causing a lot of disruptions in relationships and a lot of misunderstandings and just general troubles. So this moving out of this kind of tight position that all these planets were in, Libra especially, is a good omen, especially for relationships. Now we'll understand why that is. So 11th of November, Venus moves into the sign of Scorpio, and right after that, on the 13th of November, Mars is going to go retrograde in the sign of Taurus. And this Mars retrogression in the sign of Taurus has been like a huge transit, wherein this has been going on from, I would say, around September-ish this year, wherein it was direct, then it turned retrograde, then it moved out into Gemini, then again it went back into Taurus now, and it is going to be retrograde in Taurus up until the next year, March. So there is a video in which there is a detailed description about this whole transit. It will be linked in the description box. Also, you can check it out coming out as a pop-up on the right hand side top corner of the video screen, and you can click on that I button as well to get to know more about how this Mars retrograde transit is going to be for you, certainly recommend that you watch that video. Now, what happens is this Mars retrograde, which is happening in Taurus, is now going to be in direct opposition to the Venus that has transited into the sign of Scorpio. So this is like an astrological axis, the 2-8 axis, right? Because these are opposite signs, Taurus and Scorpio. So what do we see here is that Venus, which actually rules the sign of Taurus, is in the sign that is ruled by Mars, which is Scorpio. So there is this kind of transference of energies of Venus and Mars in opposite signs. So what do we see here is that there might be a misguided sort of notion regarding intimacy and your romantic relationships, wherein rather than a healthy demonstration of these things, there might be something which can be a little out of the blue. It can be a little taboo. It can be something which might be quite mysterious. It could be something which is quite secretive. So these kind of themes regarding intimacy and relationships and romance and these kind of themes can start to present themselves right now, especially after this kind of troubling time within relationships. This can in certain ways prove to be good, because rather than indifference, it would be something which is more along the levels of, creating that intimacy, creating that bond between the partners. So if you are in a relationship, so this would definitely serve as a much better time than the period from October up until this point of November has been. So what do we see now is that on the 13th, as Mars is going retrograde, Mercury is also going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio. So there can be this kind of communication regarding certain aspects which might come out, wherein there might be some secrets which are revealed to you right now. This can also be with regards to money, because the 2-8 axis has a lot to do with money when it comes to security or when it comes to benefiting out of other people's money. So there can be some sort of secrets or some sort of information that gets out to you regarding these things. That is also a possibility. There is also a possibility when it comes to your value systems kind of changing, or you contemplating your financial values with regards to how that connects with how your family views, like they have their own financial values and stuff like that. So how basically are you able to create that sort of balance in tandem between those two things? So that is the kind of energy that presents itself. This can also mean that you right now might be expecting some sort of profit that might be coming your way with regards to someone else's monetary resources, and that can present a very good omen for you right now. You might be able to achieve and receive that expected payment or expected, let's say, benefit. So that has a positive energy here. Now, what happens is next on the 16th of November, Sun is going to be transiting into Scorpio. So all of this energy is cumulatively going to be in the sign of Scorpio, and it is going to be directly opposite to the Mars retrograde. So they are having this mutual aspect between each other. So all these themes of being able to profit from other people's money, how you are going to parlay that into your own financial security or your own financial savings, that is like a general theme. This can also show the fact that you might get into these covert or secretive kind of relationships, and that can be something which you might indulge in at this point, and it can be quite passionate, it can be quite intense. That is something that is also presenting itself, also because Mars is like your ascendant lord, or the lord that rules your sign. So it being retrograde, and that too in your second house, definitely shows that you can run into these sort of conflicts, especially verbally, with your family and their value systems. And that is something you have to be a little careful about. Also, you have to be very vigilant as to what you're consuming at this point, because that is going to be very critical for your general well-being, and also how you're basically speaking to others, because you might right now be in a zone where you are being a little more secretive than general, and you're keeping your cards close to your chest. So that can be this sort of demeanor which might present itself at this point. Also, now what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be coming out of its retrograde motion, and it's going to turn direct in the sign of Pisces. And this is going to be happening in your 12th house. So there is a video which has been released on this channel which goes into very detailed analysis of what this would mean for your sign. So you can definitely check that video out to understand what this transit can mean for you. So in that video, we have discussed in detail how Jupiter's retrograde transit is going to turn for you. So all the significations discussed there are all now going to turn positive and are going to feel much more forward in motion, right? So you are going to feel not restricted, but you're going to feel much more excited or rejuvenated regarding the prospects that Jupiter is going to be bringing you right now. Also, something that needs to be seen here is the fact that Jupiter from your 12th house is going to be putting its 9th aspect onto the Venus, Mercury, and Sun that has been transiting in the sign of Scorpio, which is like a great thing, because Jupiter is a planet that talks about benevolence. It is significatory of luck. It is significatory of your life source itself. So all of these energies in bringing out, this kind of energy within the 8th house can definitely mean that there can be some weird transformations that might happen in your life or your perspective at this point, wherein you can actually, though at that point, feel a little taken aback because it might happen in such an unexpected, sudden fashion, but it is going to be ultimately for your best. And that is something that you definitely, are going to be profiting from. And that is something that is definitely going to come to your aid later, even if you cannot basically, gauge that prospect at this point. So this Jupiter's aspect, such a benefic aspect onto your Venus, Mercury, and Sun, is definitely a really good omen. So don't get fearful of any changes which are coming your way right now, because it is ultimately going to turn in your favor and much more positive for you. So that is certainly the kind of energies that you will experience until the whole November transit is taking place. Now what we do is we next see how December's transit are going to be affecting you. So December transits start from the 3rd of December when Mercury goes into the sign of Sagittarius, right? At this point, at the point of 3rd December, Mercury is going to be direct, right? Now what happens is next on the 5th of December, Venus also joins Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. Both of the planets which basically talk about, having fun, being able to derive pleasure from things, and, all these positive planets and significations are going to be in a sign where, it's representative of also being fun-loving, being outgoing, being able to, express and indulge in recreational activities and things like that. So this is a very positive omen for you right now if you would like to travel and you would like to actually be able to explore different cultures and different, let's say even different religious or spiritual or philosophical beliefs. At this point, it's a very, very good time for you to kind of go towards achieving these things. Also, because Jupiter is in your 12th house right now, and then all this positive energy is going to be there in your 9th house at this point. So definitely this period up until the mid of December is going to be extremely positive for you to actually indulge into travel. Also, if you are a student who, has been kind of looking at going abroad for, let's say, an educational pursuit or something of that sort, this is also a good time to kind of bring that application in, because the chances of you actually being able to be accepted or being able to harness on that for forward momentum, planetary momentum, is definitely going to be there. So that is also quite a good omen which is present because of this transit that is happening in your ninth house at this point. Now, on the 16th of December, Sun is also going to come out of your 8th house and going to move into the sign of Sagittarius in your ninth house. So all of the energies that I had discussed up until now, which is, you feeling much more energetic regarding, getting out there, having fun, and being able to actually indulge in, let's say, exploring different cultures, exploring different religious or spiritual beliefs and things like that. It's all going to be the central theme for you during this transitory period. And also we see that from here, from the Mars retrograde is going to be aspecting this planetary energy that is happening in your ninth house by its eighth aspect. So all the kind of fears that you might have, or any kind of transform, and this whole journey can actually bring you to a huge transformational energy into your own life, or into your own perspective, or how you're basically going to be imbibing from this experience. So this is a very, very positive catalytic sort of experience for you to go into and actually explore and be able to have fun. So this is a really good time for you to explore these things and have fun, and indulge in traveling and vacationing and things like that. Now what happens next is, on the 28th of December, Mercury is going to go into Capricorn. Now this transit I won't be speaking much on, because right after 2 days, Mercury is going to go retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius in your ninth house. So up until this point, as I had explained that, Mercury is right now in this sign. So it is a huge time for you to actually explore the themes of traveling, maybe traveling a long distance, and being able to go on vacations and things like that recreationally. Now, when it is 31st of December, I would definitely say don't take any impromptu kind of decisions to travel. And even if you have booked something for this time, there you might actually run into some sort of unexpected delays or unexpected sort of changes in your plans at this point. So be kind of prepared for that prospect. Even if you can't change your plans, if you've already made them, then I would certainly say be prepared for some sort of disruption regarding the plans that you have made. So travel plans especially. So that is something that is a central theme which can be coming here. And also you need to be kind of aware of how you're communicating regarding your religious beliefs, your spiritual or philosophical beliefs, because you might turn into some sort of disagreement with someone based on the kind of communication you're having regarding these prospects, and that might actually not basically bode well for you, because you might lead into some sort of unnecessary fights and stuff like that. So be careful regarding that aspect as well. And right before the 31st of December, on the 29th of December, Venus is going to be transiting in Capricorn. So Venus is then going to be conjunct Saturn in your 10th house. So what do we see here is that Venus, which is the sign which shows, being able to derive pleasure, being able to enjoy things, being able to indulge in things. When this planet basically conjoins the planet of restraint, the planet of fear, the planet of karma. So we see that rather than at this period you thinking that, okay, I might be able to just dilly-dally and enjoy my life, you might have this change of perspective wherein you actually sit back and try to evaluate your professional prospects, because the 10th house is all about your professional prospects, and it can be a sort of let's say, from like a fun aspect to turning into a reality check sort of a thing, wherein you are like, okay, we've had enough fun now, and we need to like kind of get our shit together and be able to figure out what is happening in our professional prospects and become extremely realistic regarding the prospects at work and how I'm going to be dealing with the challenges at work. Also, during this time, you might actually be able to present yourself in a very favorable light to your superiors at work, and your general disposition might actually become more acceptable and pleasing to people at this point. So that can be a prospect that also presents itself during this transit of Venus when it is going through Capricorn and conjoining Saturn as well. But for this prospect, you have to also understand that your relationships are going to turn extremely realistic and less romantic and more just like, fine, this is how it is, and this is how we're going to work at it. But it is also going to be providing a lot of stability in your relationship, because rather than this weird ups and downs and transformational energies, you might actually become much more static and a little more grounded regarding your relationship prospects and things like that. So that is also a good energy which is presenting itself. So this is all of the planetary energy that is happening from the mid of November 2022 up until the end of December 2022 for you. Let me know in the comment section if any of these predictions have resonated with you. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great year ahead. So Taurus natives, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November 2022 up until the end of the year 2022, which is all the transits happening in December as well, are going to be turning out for you based on the planetary transits happening during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio. And with this, the whole transit of this energy and accumulation of energy in the sign of Libra, wherein there was this conjunction of Sun, Mercury and Venus with Ketu in your 6th house, is going to let up the sort of pent up energy which was being created around your workspace and your work colleagues, and it's going to be moving into the space of your romantic as well as business partnerships. So 11th of November, Venus moves into the sign of Scorpio, and then right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury will also be joining it in the sign of Scorpio. So what do we see happening here with the two positive and benefic planets of Venus and Mercury moving into your 7th house is the fact that, all this tension that was being created around your work colleagues, around the kind of relationships you have with people that you're working very closely with, are now going to let up in a way where you feel much more cooperative, you feel much more partnership oriented, wherein you're able to relate and connect with people much better. This is going to help you work better in professional settings, wherein this can also be applicable for your business dealings and things like that. So if you are a business owner or you're working in a business, you are going to feel much more benefic push towards working as a group, as a team, and being able to accomplish your goals. So that is one of the major energies which is present here. Also, when it comes to this factor, we can see that the 7th house being there and two benefic planets being posited there, we can see that you might actually get into some sort of relationship or some sort of romantic liaison, wherein it happens in a very unusual fashion, and it suddenly happens that you're enamored by someone, and it suddenly escalates into this passionate and intimate sort of a relationship or equation. So that can also be something that you can see being developed right now, wherein this whole situation can also be quite mysterious and secretive. It might not be a relationship or a sort of equation that you kind of talk about or display much of. It might be something that you kind of keep on the low, if you know what I mean. So that sort of equation can also be presenting itself here. Also, on the 13th of November, we will see Mars going retrograde in the sign of Taurus. and it's going to be moving out from Gemini. So basically the backward motion. So this Mars retrograde motion in Taurus is like a huge transit, and it's like a 8-month transit wherein Mars was in Taurus from, I believe, September or October up until November, and then it turned retrograde now in the same sign. There's a detailed video analysis regarding this transit. I would definitely recommend you to watch that. It will be given in the description box, as well as you can click the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen, and that can also guide you to that video. And you should definitely watch this one because Mars retrograde is happening in your first house of self. So this is going to be impacting you in a very, very significant manner. So other than whatever discussion has happened there, why I'm going to be discussing it here as well is because when Mars turns retrograde in your first house, this is going to be aspecting your seventh house, and vice versa. The planets in your seventh house are also going to be aspecting this Mars retrograde. And this is a huge deal because your first seventh axis is getting activated. So, which means that you are now going to have to basically strike a balance between how individualistic you are at this point and how partnership oriented you are at this point. So you need to sort of bridge the gap between neither being too individualistic, wherein you kind of don't gel well with people around you, because you need to have some sort of let up and some sort of compromise and give and take between people to be able to work better with them or function better with them. So that sort of equation can present itself, which you need to be aware of. And also, as I mentioned before, that you might actually get into these sort of relationships which happen at the spur of the moment. It's not like, oh, I'm taking time to fall in love, and that sort of equation might not happen. It might be like a instant attraction thing, and you feel attracted to someone and then you indulge in a sort of relationship or equation with them. So that kind of probability also presents itself, because Mars also happening in your first house shows that there is this sort of quickness with relation to the decisions you make right now. And this can also be in terms of the partnerships you are indulging in at this point. So that is the sort of energy which presents itself with this axis activation. Now what happens is, on the 16th of November next, we see that Sun is also going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio. And all of this energy is basically further accentuating your focus and your efforts, which need to be present, wherein you need to equalize and balance your energies within the realm of individuality and within the realm of partnership. So you need to strike a balance between working as a leader and working alone, and also strike a balance between being able to cooperate and work as a team. So that is a sort of thing which is extremely instrumental for you right now. Don't try to be driven by your ego at this point. I would definitely say reconsider how you're demonstrating your personality at this point, and try to be a little more cooperative and let up that sort of individualistic streak of stubbornness at times that you might inhabit. So that is something that I would definitely say you kind of are cognizant about during this time period. Now what happens next is, on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be transiting in the sign of Pisces, and this will happen wherein it will come out of its retrograde motion and turn direct, which is a great thing, because this is also happening in your 11th house of financial gains and network circles. So this whole aspect of Jupiter being in Pisces has been discussed in a video which has been released prior on the channel. It will be, again, as I said before, linked in the description box, or on the clicking by the I button, you can check that out as well. And this will not be discussed in detail because it has already been discussed. So you can definitely check that video out, and all the significations which have been mentioned in that video, which specifically talk about the retrograde motion of Jupiter and how it's going to be affecting you. all the significations which have been mentioned there are now going to turn opposite. So rather than being challenging, they're going to be very much cooperative and positive for you right now. So what you can see is all the sort of troubles that you might have experienced regarding the significations of Jupiter, wherein you were not able to capitalize on higher income or higher financial gains, are now going to be easier for you. So that sort of energy is presenting itself. But what needs to be discussed here is the fact that Jupiter from your 11th house is going to be putting its 9th aspect onto your 7th house. And this is like a fantastic sort of a benefic and very positive influence that Jupiter is going to be putting onto your 7th house. So I would definitely say there is a probability of the fact that you might get lucky with one of your friends. Like you might actually end up meeting someone like in your extended network circle or in your extended friends circle or someone like that, who you can develop a sort of relationship with in two ways. So you can either be in a romantic setup with them, which I discussed, it might happen very instantaneously and that sort of equation can happen, or you can get into a business partnership or some sort of a business connection with someone who you've met through your friends or through your own network circle, sort of a thing. So it has a very positive and a very benefic sort of energy presenting itself. You can also feel that you might be able to connect very well with people right now, and they might basically build a sort of bridge between certain challenges that you were facing until now with your workspace, and they might actually be able to help you out and give you that sort of factor of luck within kind of figuring things out when it comes to your business or even your romantic relationships. So this is an extremely positive aspect that Jupiter is going to be putting on your 7th house. So these are all the transits that will be happening in the month of November. Now we move on to what is going to happen in the month of December. So the very first transit we see is on the 3rd of December. Mercury is going to be transiting into the sign of Sagittarius in your 8th house. So at this point, it's going to be in direct motion. And when Mercury comes into the sign of Sagittarius. Now, right after that, on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to be presenting and moving out into the sign of Sagittarius. So we see that again, these two benefic planets are going to be present in the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is a very positive sign, but it's happening in your 8th house. So this can show the fact that you might actually develop these sort of relationships. And I think this is the same theme which is going on for you. Like you might actually get into these unconventional sort of relationship equations, wherein rather than because Taurus as a sign particularly is extremely, they think a lot and they contemplate a lot. It's not as easy to, let's say proverbially fall in bed with them. They take a lot of thinking regarding who and what they want to do. They're quite slow with regards to making decisions because they tend to think a lot about it. But in this scenario, I feel you are much more geared towards making decisions which are very much instantaneous rather than very much thought out. So that sort of energy further represents itself. So you might actually go deeper within these sort of taboo topics when it comes to, things that not many people like to discuss about. And that can be the sort of thing which might actually help you to catalyze on higher profits and higher benefits. And you might be able to talk to your network circle regarding this, or the people who you come in connect with during this time might be people who introduce you to these kind of topics or these kind of groups which basically not many people know about. So this is like a very transformational time for you at this point. You can transform quite a lot about yourself at this point. And also because Mars is retrograde is happening in your 1st house. So you are right now looking forward to actually customizing and changing your personality and your persona. So that can be the kind of theme which presents itself here. Also, we can say that during this time you might take these kind of uh, on on the spur of the moment sort of travels as well. You can actually be able to travel and learn about different cultures and different let's say different religions, different spiritual thought processes, different philosophies, and these kind of things might present itself as well. So that is also a possibility. And even the relationships that you indulge in can be very mysterious, secretive, and yeah, so and very intense as well. So these kind of themes present itself. Also, if you have been looking out for some sort of let's say some benefits that you were expecting to come from someone, that can be a positive inclination regarding receiving them. So let's say like inheritance and stuff like that, even in like money and insurance. So those kind of themes are also present here. Now, what happens next is on the 16th of December, Sun is going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. So again, further intensifying your whole mysterious taboo vibe, and people might actually be attracted to your aura, your intensity, and stuff like that. So when it comes to your relationships, this seems to be a very an uptake in the sort of connections you are able to make right now. And this even happens in the aspect of networking, your friend circle, and things like that. So that energy is presenting itself. Also, this whole conjunction of energy which is happening in your eighth house gets an eighth aspect from the Mars retrograde, which is happening in your first house. So it says further that, even if the things are taboo, or even if certain things are not as expected, you are still going to be forging ahead without being fearful about things, and that is going to help you reap higher benefits. So, the quotient of fearfulness is going to reduce because of this eighth aspect of Mars onto your eighth house. And definitely, the main theme for you during this time is definitely going to be, an uptake in the sort of intimate connections you make with people right now. So that surely is also an energy which is very, very prevalent at this point. So what happens next is on the 28th of December, Mercury is going to be transiting in Capricorn. But we are not going to be discussing this transit right now because this transit is only going to be there for 2 days, after which it is going to basically Mercury is going to turn retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. So we are not going to be discussing how it's going to be performing in the sign of Capricorn for 2 days. So next we see that on the 29th of December, Venus is going to move into Capricorn, and this is happening in your ninth house, right? And this is going to be conjunct your Saturn. So we can see that at this point you might get like a cold dose of reality, wherein you understand that whatever sort of relationship or equation that I was indulging in at this point, it was not really something that I was looking for, or was not really something that I feel like basically aligns with my values, be it your religious or your spiritual or your philosophical values. So you might sort of take a step back from any frivolous sort of romantic equations and become quite realistic. So you might turn towards more realism rather than just being instinctual with your romantic connections. So that is going to be there, and you're going to become extremely focused regarding your whole spiel with figuring out how you want to deal with your progress in your religious and spiritual journey. That can also be something. Also, because your ascendant lord is coming into your ninth house, it is a good omen for you. So definitely this is a time where you can indulge in traveling as well. But I would say, rather than traveling at this point exactly, it is much better to kind of travel a little before, because even though Venus going through your ninth house does provide good omens for traveling, but still Saturn is going to be there. So it might prove to have some challenges. And this is going to be further substantiated by the fact that on 31st of December, Mercury is going to turn retrograde in Sagittarius. So whenever Mercury is going to be turning retrograde, we see that a lot of challenges come about with regards to your travel plans. So definitely I would say be a little cognizant regarding your travel plans during the exact ending of the year. Don't take any just like instantaneous sort of traveling plans or vacations are not something that can work very well for you. And even if you have plans which have been already made, prepare yourself in a way wherein you know that even though you have made certain plans, it might deviate a little bit as well. Also, because Mercury is going to be turning retrograde, you can also expect some sort of unexpected texts or call back from the people who you were in that sort of romantic equation with, wherein they kind of come back to you and say that, I don't want to end this sort of connection or end this sort of equation or relationship that we have. So that sort of push and pull might come, wherein even though you want to move ahead, the other person in that equation might not really want to. So that sort of energy also presents itself with the Mercury retrograde energy happening in your 8th house. Quite a lot of transformatory energy within your whole aura and within the kind of relationships you keep at that point. So this is the whole analysis of your period from the mid of November up until the end of the year. Towards the December of 2022 ending. So I hope you related to the predictions which I shared for you. Let me know in the comment section if so, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great year ahead. So Geminis, let's see for you how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to turn out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio. And this is going to initiate the sort of transit and concentration of energy away from the sign of Libra, wherein up until now there was this concentration of energy of Sun, Mercury, and Venus, which were all getting conjunct Ketu and creating a lot of chaos regarding romantic relationships for you. Now, what happens is on the 11th of November, when Venus, the planet that signifies love, moves into the sign of Scorpio, it moves into your 6th house. And right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury also joins Venus here in the sign of Scorpio in your 6th house. So what do we see here is the fact that with all the tension that was being created with regards to your romantic relationships are now easing up. And, now you are sort of moving into a phase wherein your professional life and the kind of relationships you have with people around you at work are going to work in a very positive way with regards to the kind of professional aspirations you have for yourself at this point. So Mercury and Venus both coming into your 6th house show the fact that you are right now going to be extremely well received at your workplace, within your colleagues, within the team that you have. And this is going to work in your benefit because you will be regarded as a person who will be reliable and who will be able to communicate well within the teams and optimize its functioning. So that is a sort of energy which presents itself. Also, this can show the fact that right now you might actually also be quite interested in, let's say, learning or knowing about things like holistic healing and those kind of things which are relating to unusual sort of healing and restoration practices when it comes to health and regeneration. So that sort of theme can also present itself right now. And then what else we can see here is the fact that you are right now quite focused on being able to create that sort of environment wherein you can progress on your work potential and your professional ideals and be able to optimize on your career growth at this point. So all in all, it's just a very good sort of an environment here. This can also show the fact that there might be some catalytic sort of transformational energies wherein some sudden events happen at your workplace which can cause you to kind of contemplate regarding, okay, where is my career going, is this the right trajectory that I'm taking, or do I want to be pursuing this thing that I was interested in until now. So these sort of thoughts can also present themselves during this period. So also on the 13th of November, we see that Mars is going to turn retrograde in the sign of Taurus in your 12th house. So this whole transit of Mars, be it the direct or the retrograde motion in Taurus, is like a transit which has been going on and will be going on until March of next year in the retrograde motion now. And it is quite a significant and impactful motion of this planet. So there is a video which is already existing on the channel, and I will be linking that in the description box. You can also check it out on the upper right hand side of the video screen on the I bar as well. So what we're going to be discussing here, though, is the fact that Mars retrograde from your 12th house is going to be aspecting your sixth house and all the energies which are present there. So this can show the fact that you are right now in a zone wherein you can actually contemplate to move your jobs or move within jobs and be maybe exposed to some sort of losses within maybe the connections that you formed at one workplace, and having to lose those and then move on to another one and things like that. So that can be a possibility which presents itself at this point. And this can also show the fact that you are right now in a zone which is a little more contemplative of the fact that how your general disposition of being a characteristically a very people person oriented kind of a human being, how that is kind of at odds right now with your want to be a little more secluded or isolated and be able to kind of reflect within yourself and to be able to get sort of answers regarding these crucial things that are going on right now. So especially with regards to your career. So I would definitely say also you might be right now contemplating your financial kind of abilities, because Mars retrograde in your 12th house can definitely show the fact that you might have had until now, or you might have the possibility of now facing some sort of losses with regards to your savings. And this can kind of impact your general sense of security. So that is also something that can be present. Also because the 6th and 12th axis is getting activated, and your planet that rules your sign, which is Mercury, is going to be transiting in the 6th house. So it's not a very favorable thing per se. So, you can attract this sort of energy wherein you can lead into combats with the people around you at this point. And even though you are going to be pleasant and generally quite acceptable, but there might also be instances wherein you run into conflicts with people, and there's this sort of verbal spat wherein then you finally decide that, okay, I've reached my tipping point and I would not like to deal with this thing, and maybe it's time to move on and kind of progress into a different workspace or things like that. So that can also be a sort of energy which might present itself at this point. So what happens next is on the 16th of November, Sun is also going to conjoin in this whole energy happening in your 6th house within the sign of Scorpio. So this further accentuates the same themes that, you are right now contemplating about. You're also maybe contemplating about your debt in general, and, how to kind of liquidate some sort of assets, maybe to be able to function your debts better, to be able to pay off your debts better. So that can also be a possibility which might arise right now. So these sort of themes kind of play themselves at this point. Now, next what happens is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to come out of its retrograde motion and it's going to turn direct in the sign of Pisces in your 10th house. So this is quite a good omen for you, especially when it comes to in relation of how your relationships and public perception with your colleagues and with your superiors especially might turn out. So this whole transition of Jupiter in the sign of Pisces has been discussed previously on the channel, and that video will be linked in the description box, or you can click the I button and check that out as well. And all the significations which were discussed in that video, basically you have to listen to them because they were discussed about the retrograde motion. So now you have to just understand that all of these significations are going to turn positive and much more forward momentum based. So you are not now going to face challenges with authorities, but now you're going to gel well better with them. So I would definitely say that this is a time where even if you consider moving out, try to do so by not burning bridges and being able to be in the good books of your superiors, especially because you might be able to profit from their ingenuity or their connections. So that is surely something that I see as well. But what needs to be discussed here also is the fact that Jupiter from your 10th house is going to be aspecting all this planetary energy that is happening in your 6th house by its 9th aspect. So it's a very, very positive sort of aspect that is being formed by the most benefic and luckiest planet in astrology. So what we can expect is also the fact that within all this kind of the back and forth regarding the sort of relationships you have with your colleagues at this point, or if there's any trouble or there's this sort of latent sort of disagreements or just general intensity of some sort of fighting happening right now. So your superiors can actually come into your assistance and interject, or maybe just take your side at this point to kind of take you aside and set the path straight for you. So that sort of interjection can happen by your superiors at work. You can also feel that even though whatever is being done at this point, general disposition or the public perception about you is much more positive. So you are basically not being pointed out as the culprit at this point. So that is also something that can be experienced with this transit taking place. So now there can also be a possibility that you might travel because of your work commitments. That is also something that can be possibly seen as well. So now what happens is, now that we have discussed all the November transits, we will move on to the transits that are happening in December. And we start off by on the 3rd of December, Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. So the lord of your sign is going to be transiting into your 7th house. So basically you are now going to have to basically be able to balance your equations with people around you, be it your romantic relationships or your business partnerships. So you will have to sort of take that step ahead to balance things out if there is some sort of malice, or there has been some sort of fights that have taken place which has maybe furthered you away from people around you. So you have to kind of bow down to a certain extent to be able to not be as egotistical, and maybe be able to figure out a way to balance the scales of the kind of energy or the kind of interests that both the parties have. So that sort of energy presents itself. It can also show the fact that if you have any romantic relationships, you can kind of be very rejuvenated within indulging in those sort of romantic relationships. You can also possibly be able to travel with your partner to places far away, like take a vacation or things of that sort. To take a break away from the kind of equation that you have created or that has been created at work, to kind of get a break from that. So that is also a possibility which presents itself. Now on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to conjoin Mercury into the sign of Sagittarius. So it further shows that the presence of the fact that you need to be able to balance the scales out, be more pleasant to people at this point, even though you might not want to, but still it has to be done so that things work out in your favor eventually. So that is something that you definitely need to be thinking about. And again, as I mentioned before, the prospect of you being able to travel with your partner, being able to indulge in these sort of, vacations, being able to enjoy yourself can be something you might need at this point to be able to distract yourself from the general tensions at work, and even the fact that you might be able to rejuvenate from that sort of experience as well. So that is a positive time for you to indulge in these sort of practices as well. And you can also possibly be looking inwards and kind of figuring out your general disposition to your religious or spiritual or philosophical beliefs at this point, trying to understand how to basically find peace through these means as well. So that can also be a possibility too. And on the 16th of December next, we see that Sun is also going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius, further accentuating all the themes that have been mentioned until now. So I would definitely say by 16th of December, you are sort of going to come into that sort of acceptance that fine, I need to let go of my objectives to a certain extent and be able to extend an olive branch and create that sort of balance within these equations that have seemed to become miffed or seem to have become troubled. So I would definitely say that is the time around when you can definitely come to a compromise and a sort of negotiation regarding those things. Now, what happens next is on the 28th of December, Mercury is going to be transiting into Capricorn. But this is going to be a very, very small transit, because right after 2 days, it's going to go backwards as in retrograde motion in the sign of Sagittarius. So, and that is going to impact you really significantly. So we are not going to discuss Mercury's transit into Capricorn because it's quite insignificant. So what happens next is on the 29th of December, we see that Venus transiting into the sign of Capricorn. And this is going to get conjunct with your transiting Saturn in the 8th house. So what do we see here is the fact that you might actually come into this sort of a space wherein you have these the amalgamation to a certain extent of your fears can seem like becoming a reality. So maybe if there was a sort of a fear regarding the fact that what will I do if I kind of lose my job, or if I have to kind of change my sort of occupation at this point, and these kind of fears, if they might have been present, might at this point start to seem like, shit, is this really going to become my reality? And that sort of feeling can start to present itself at this point. So you might actually become quite realistic regarding your prospects when it comes to being able to profit from other people's gains. It might also come as a fact that if there is some sort of severance packages, or there is some sort of the last due payments that you need to get paid from your place of employment, and things like that might become a little harder for you to manifest and be able to achieve. So that sort of possibility is also kind of present here as well. And you need to be cognizant of the fact that to not let your fears become like a over astounding noise within any sort of practical thinking processes. So that is something that you need to be careful about as well. By the 31st of December, Mercury is going to turn retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. And this is going to impact you significantly because it is the planet that rules your sign. So, and that is happening in your 7th house. So it further shows the fact that your communication might become so warped with people around you that the only recourse you sort of feel at this point is, rather than everything being taken out of context regarding whatever I speak, I would rather not indulge in any sort of conversation. So then again, as I mentioned, there was a time frame where negotiations and compromise was a little more open channel. You will feel that channel is closing back again, and that will make you again contemplate the fact that do I really need to sort of put my my interests aside to be able to strike a balance here or not? Is it worth it? And so that sort of tension will again sort of weasel its way back into your conscience, and you will have to be careful of how you are basically communicating at this time, especially because your words can get misconstrued, and there might be a possibility that because of that you might be quick to anger when people take your perception. They have the wrong perception regarding what you're saying, what you're meaning, and your intentions. So that sort of struggle might be present towards the ending of this year. So yeah, these are all the predictions for you at this point, and let me know in the comment section if any of the predictions resonated with you. I hope all of these tensions dissipate, and I hope the year ahead for you is great. Thank you so much for watching. So Cancers, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to turn out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio, and this is going to happen in your 5th house. And very soon with this, on the 13th of November, Mercury is also going to be conjoining Venus, and it is going to be traveling through your 5th house. So we see that this sort of energy represents itself back into your 5th house, and these are positive planets, these are beneficial planets. So when Venus and Mercury sort of come into your 5th house, it generally shows the fact that you might find revitalization within your creativity, within your prospects with your romantic relationships. So these kind of themes will present itself, and you will feel also quite self-assured within your personality as well. And you can also feel the fact that you can feel that you're appreciated for the kind of quirks, or for the kind of things that are very significant to who you are. So that sort of thing can also be present. You might be extremely interested right now to kind of broaden your horizons when it comes to your creative pursuits, and you will feel much more inclined and creatively conducive to be able to pursue these things as well. So a very, very positive time for you at this point, but there might be also some sort of sudden events or some sort of transformations which happen because of that event, wherein you kind of think about the fact that, fine, do I really need to contemplate regarding these things? Do I need to really contemplate about maybe some romantic relationships that I'm right now involved in, or the sort of personality traits at this point that I'm exhibiting? And this sort of theme also presents itself because you very recently had a lunar eclipse happen in your 10th house. So the fact that your ruling planet was in a space wherein you had to contemplate a lot regarding your public perception and how you are basically perceived by people, you might right now sit back and think, okay, what is the sort of personality traits I really want to be associated with and exhibit, because that becomes a sort of identity that you keep. So that can be the sort of theme that presents itself wherein you're contemplating these things. Maybe you're planning to take up some new hobbies which kind of rebrands your perception with people. So that can be a probability as well. Now what happens next is on the 13th of November, we also see that Mars is going to turn retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and this is happening in your 11th house. So this also shows the fact that there might be some sort of relationships around you which you are not very keen on, and that might right now feel very opposing to what you want to achieve at this point, and that can be also a catalyst for you to kind of exterminate people from around yourself and maybe rebuild your cycle. Also, this transit of Mars retrograde is a very significant transit because Mars, being in the sign of Taurus, has been going off and on from around September, and this is going to go on up until March of next year. And there's a previous video which has been released on the channel, and it will be linked in the description box, or you can click the I button and also see it tagged there. So and there is a whole description regarding what you can expect with this transit for your sign. But also when it comes to this particular period, we see that this Mars retrograde that is taking place in your 11th house is putting a direct aspect onto your 5th house. So because 5th house and 11th house are both these sort of houses which deal with your wealth and a sort of wealth generation in a way which is you undertake risks and you're able to expound on the kind of profits that you achieve from taking that risk. So I would definitely say you need to contemplate as to how you are dealing with your finances at this point, and how much of it are you able to kind of save at this point, and how much of it will you really want to risk and be able to gain better returns on. So that sort of energy definitely presents itself. And as I mentioned before, there is this sort of possibility wherein you can sort of get into some verbal kind of fights with the people around you, your network circle or your friend circle, wherein the general changes that you're kind of trying to implement in your life might not be agreeable or liked by the people around you at this point, which can lead to some sort of disagreements and general falling out as well, maybe. So that is something that you have to kind of be ready for in that sense. So that is also a possibility which presents itself here. Now what happens next is on the 16th of November, Sun is also going to be coming into your 5th house and in the sign of Scorpio, and Sun actually rules the 5th house, right? So this shows that you are right now going to be taking on these sort of challenges, be it however many unexpected events take place, because you want to kind of go through that transformational energy to be able to reinvent yourself in a way, to be able to really work on your personality, on your interests, on your hobbies, and how basically those things change the public perception regarding you and things like that. So that energy further becomes solidified with that transit as well. Now, what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be transiting in the sign of Pisces, and it is going to become direct from the retrograde motion that it was already present in. So what happens here is the fact that this is taking place in your 9th house. So we see the fact that you are right now going to be now looking at the fact that not just your personality but also your values and value systems when it comes to things like your religious, your spiritual, and your philosophical ideals is also something that you might want to right now work on or basically explore with regards to how you want to associate those things with your personality and things like that. So that is also a possibility. This transit has been discussed in detail in a video that has been previously published, and it will be linked in the description box. Also, you can check it out by clicking the I button. And so whatever significations were discussed in that video are basically all supposed to be now turning opposite, because that video was exclusively made with regards to Jupiter's retrograde transit. So now all the significations which were shared in that video are going to turn much more positive and forward momentum based. You can feel the interest that you have in revamping your belief systems can actually become positive, and maybe there were also possibilities of you wanting to undertake some educational prospects abroad. That can also become a good possibility at this point, so definitely check that video out as well for a detailed analysis. So but what we need to discuss here is the fact that Jupiter from your 9th house puts its 9th aspect onto your 5th house, wherein all this planetary energy of Venus, Mercury, and Sun is getting conjunct in your 5th house. So this definitely shows the fact that right now all these transformatory kind of events that are taking place, however painful, however uncomfortable they might be at this point, it is definitely going to be for your benefit and for your growth at the end of the day. And you are going to be right now blessed by the divine forces to be able to undertake these challenges and to be able to come out of it on the other end having learned and grown from these experiences. So don't lose your hope at this point and stay strong and be able to weather these kind of storms when it comes to your personal life in certain aspects. So that is definitely something that you can experience at this point. So these are all the transits that will be happening in November, and now we move on to the transits that will be undertaking during December. On the 3rd of December, we see that Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius and in your 6th house. So and right after that, on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to be transiting into the sign of Sagittarius and in your 6th house. So this shows the fact that these positive beneficiary energies are present here. And this further expounds on the fact that you are right now going to be looking into the kind of debt you have, the monetary debt or the monetary responsibilities that you've undertaken, and how to basically relieve those, with the fact that maybe the kind of gains you receive from the risks that you're taking in your investments right now, you're kind of parlaying them into being able to pay off your debts at this point. So that is a sort of energy which can also represent itself with these kind of planetary energies. It can also show the fact that all these kind of changes that you're trying to make within your personality actually are working well when it comes to your general perception at work and how people are kind of responding to your personality or your general disposition. So that kind of energy is also presenting itself right now. And this can also show the possibility that you might be undertaking some sort of changes in your routine to be able to further your process of being able to revamp yourself or change certain facets about your personality and things like that. So you might become quite health conscious, quite driven regarding specificity of your routines and things like that. So that is definitely another thing that you might be able to experience with these planetary energies being present in your 6th house. And this can also show the fact that you are further going to go into depth regarding all these aspects within the scope of your spiritual, religious, and your philosophical beliefs, and how to be able to integrate those things into your everyday life, and to be able to work on those things and be able to accentuate your lifestyle with those things, and just your general journey towards these things as well. So that is also something that can present itself right now with these planetary energies. And on the 16th of December, we see that Sun is also going to move into your 6th house. So this can also show the fact that you are right now quite oriented regarding the work that you need to do. And also this can also be with regards to the healing work that you need to do within yourself, and to be able to recuperate better. So that is also a possibility as well. And even in your professional sort of scale, this might prove to be something that you're wanting to undertake in order to be able to stabilize your professional prospects, and to be able to materialize your professional prospects and dreams and aspirations as well. So that is also a theme that presents itself with all these concentration of energies happening in your 6th house at this point. Also, you need to be a little careful regarding the fact that despite all the kind of efforts that you're taking, there might still be people who might not be as pleasant to your demeanor or your general disposition. So don't get disheartened by that fact, and keep going on further within the healing journey and the kind of journey you're taking right now to work on yourself and for the better. So keep going on, don't get discouraged at this point. So what happens next is on the 28th of December, we see that Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn, and we won't be discussing this transit because it's going to only happen for like 2 days, and then it's going to go retrograde back into the sign of Sagittarius. So this transit we won't be discussing. Now what happens next is on the 29th of December, we see that Venus is going to move into your 7th house in the sign of Capricorn, and this is going to get then conjunct Saturn. So what happens here is the fact that people might get like a dose of reality check when it comes to how they are perceiving you, how they are looking at you at this point, and you might be able to get down to the bare bones of how you are going to be relating to people. be it in your romantic relationships or your professional prospects and your professional relationships. So you might become extremely realistic regarding, okay, what kind of relationships do I want to keep in my life, and what kind of people or the kind of energies I want to get rid of. So that sort of basically basal energy presents itself when Venus and Saturn both get conjunct in the seventh house. And if you are indulging in some sort of romantic relationships at this point, or have been before, so it will definitely be like a thing wherein you become quite realistic and you are willing to now fight for the fact that I would want to stick it out and have a shot at this thing, even though it might be challenging at this point. So that sort of energy presents itself with this transit. Now, what happens next is on the 31st of December, Mercury is going to turn retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, and this is going to happen in your sixth house. So, as I said, there might be still possibility that even though you are making these changes and you're on this sort of healing journey and you're trying to do things in order to be able to be received better at your workplace or have better relationships, there might be still chances wherein your words or your communication gets misconstrued. People will want to still basically take your words out of context, and it might not basically be beneficial for your relationships with the people that you are working with. So despite all these factors, you still have to be able to separate certain things from yourself, but you still have to check how you are communicating with people, or if you are being a contributory force into the kind of mayhem that's being created with these factors. So these are the sort of energies which present itself during this period for you. Let me know in the comment section if any of these predictions resonated with you, and I hope all these tensions get dissipated soon, and let's hope you have a great year ahead. Thanks for watching. So Leos, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to turn out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio, and then right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury is also going to be conjoining this transit into the sign of Scorpio. So herein we have two benefic planets, which is Venus and Mercury, present in your fourth house. So this can definitely show a very positive energy when it comes to the fact that you are right now very much involved and engrossed within your family affairs and your home affairs as well. So that could be a possibility, and you're right now bonding with your family much better. And there is also the possibility that you might have or you might have wanted to right now undertake some sort of let's say a construction or renovation sort of a job regarding your home, wherein you can transform how it looks, or what kind of how it's furnished and things like that. So that is also a possibility arising here. You can also see the fact that your connection with your family at this point is very strong. You're able to communicate with them much better, and you're able to go through issues and able to resolve them easily. So that sort of energy presents itself with this conjunction happening in your fourth house. Also, what happens is because presence of the sign of Scorpio being there might be some transformational aspects regarding the place you stay at. So there can be the possibility wherein you actually either change the place you stay at, or you kind of furnish the place that you're staying at. So basically some sort of change regarding the house and home and things like that. So what also happens on the 13th of November is the fact that Mars turns retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and this is happening in your 10th house. So this whole aspect of Mars being in the sign of Taurus while it was in the direct motion and then going retrograde in Taurus, and this retrogression of Taurus of Mars and Taurus is going to be there up until the next year, March. So it's quite a significant transit, and it's also happening in your 10th house of career and work prospects and things like that. So you can definitely check out the video, which is solely made on analysis of this transit happening for your sign. It will be linked in the description box. You can also see it appearing on the top right hand side of the video screen on the I button as well. And what we need to discuss here is the fact that you might be right now contemplating your work prospects and how you're basically energizing or putting your efforts into your work at this point, and what sort of remuneration are you able to achieve from your work and the kind of effort that you're putting in. So these sort of themes present itself when this Mars retrograde transit is happening in your 10th house. And what happens here is this Mars retrograde transit is putting its direct aspect onto your Venus, Mercury, and also Sun, which is going to transit soon. So what this shows is the fact that this energy of contemplation or reconsideration regarding your work prospects or regarding the kind of perception you have at work or in general is going to be something that is going to affect even your familial relations to a certain extent. So there might be some sort of underlying tensions at work, which you kind of invariably carry back into your home, and that might be a little disturbing for the general peace at home and things like that. But it's not going to be very transgressional in any way, but still you have to be a little careful regarding not bringing your work into your home and then that being the reason of destroying the peace at home. Also when it comes to your speech and your general demeanor of communication at work, you have to be a little careful regarding not getting into these kind of fights or these kind of disagreements wherein they escalate to such an extent that it gets misconstrued and people actually turn on you with that on that regard. So that is something you again have to be careful of, to keep a check on your anger and your vocal representation of anger at work especially. So that is something that you definitely need to keep in check. Now what happens next is on the 16th of November, Sun is going to be moving into the sign of Scorpio and in your 4th house. So as I mentioned, there's this junction of energy which is going to be happening in your 4th house. So all the same themes of you actually indulging more at home, you being wanting to put more effort or put more energy into your home, maybe trying to actually move or trying to actually be able to change the appearance of your home and things like that. So that can be a sort of project that you would want to take on right now. These are the kind of themes which present itself. Now what happens next is on the 24th of November, Jupiter is going to turn direct and come out of its retrograde motion in the sign of Pisces, and this is happening in your 8th house. So there is a dedicated video regarding this aspect and this transit, which I would definitely urge you watch, and it will be mentioned in the description box, and also click the I button and you can access that video as well. Now, all the significations which have been mentioned in that video are basically in terms of what are the significations of a retrograde Jupiter transit happening for your sign. So when you see that video, you have to basically understand the fact that all of the kind of significations and challenges which were discussed in that video are now going to turn opposite, and you are now going to feel much more benefic and forward momentum in the case of the Jupiter placement in your chart. So what happens here is the fact that when Jupiter is in the 8th house, as I mentioned, that there are these kind of transformational sudden changes which might appear, especially with regards to your home environment and your family. This further shows the fact that that there might be this kind of expanded energy with regards to your unexpected events in your life right now. So a lot of things to you at this point can feel quite out of the blue, wherein you have to like take a step back and be like, what just happened, kind of a situation. So it might be a lot to deal with, but you have to remember the fact that whatever kind of challenges or whatever kind of changes that are cropping up right now regarding your home dynamics or your family dynamics are something that are eventually going to work out in your benefit. And this is because Jupiter is going to be putting its ninth aspect from the eighth house onto your fourth house. So this is a positive and a very benefic aspect as well from a benefic planet. So what we can expect to come about is that you might actually be able to escalate your house, bare bones of your house. Let's say you renovate it further, you extend the home's perimeter, sort of a thing. So that can be a possibility. And it is also a possibility that you might have these impromptu travels to be able to actually move out of your house or things like that, change your location. So that is also a kind of possibility which presents itself with this transit and this aspect as well. And if you have any sort of benefit from other people's resources that you were expecting, let's say something along the lines of inheritance or insurance and things like that, there's a possibility of you achieving those things during this direct motion of Jupiter in your eighth house as well. So these are all the kind of planetary transits that are happening in the month of November. And now we move on to the planetary transits which are happening in the month of December. And we start out with on the 3rd of December, we see that Mercury is going to move into 5th house in the sign of Sagittarius. And right after that, on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to be moving into your sign of Sagittarius and in your 5th house. So this shows the fact that you might be right now inhabiting this sort of persona wherein you might appear to be very much fun loving. You might give off this vibe of a person who is very, live in the moment sort of a person. That is the kind of mantra that you want to imbibe during this transitory period. You want to kind of leave behind your troubles with regards to, let's say, your home or the kind of unexpected changes you're having, and even at your workplace, which is a little tumultuous. So you're trying to kind of, in a way, escape that sort of monotony. So this is definitely a time wherein you are looking out to seek your creativity, seek fun, seek excitement in your life. And that is something that you want to really give a chance to be able to revive your vitality and things like that. So that is definitely something you will be indulging in during this period. And you might actually be able to strike up a sort of a relationship, a romantic relationship with someone as well during this period. Maybe when you're on one of your travels, or when you're kind of moving away, vacationing or things like that. So wherever you're going, you might actually strike up a conversation with someone whom you connect with, and there might be a romantic connection with that person. So that is also a probability that you can experience during this time. And what happens next is on the 16th of December, we see that Sun is also going to come into the sign of Sagittarius, and this is going to be happening in your 5th house. And Sun is the actual lord or ruler of the 5th house. So this clearly shows the fact that you are right now feeling quite vitalized and quite creatively potent energy within yourself, wherein you can actually create a lot of art if you're interested in that, and you can feel much more rejuvenated, much more free spirited, much more daring with regards to just being in the moment and taking that leap and following through with the kind of with the kind of desires and dreams that you have. So that is a possibility. There's also the possibility that when you travel, you are able to kind of connect with certain cultures, or you're able to connect with certain thought processes, or some sort of religion, or spiritual practices, or philosophical ideals, which actually get your interest going. And that is something that also is representative by the fact that your Jupiter is in your 8th house of occult. So you might expand on your interest and your knowledge on these kind of taboo subjects, or these kind of things which are in relation to your religious, spiritual and philosophical beliefs. So those are the kind of themes which present itself with this planetary energy conjunction happening in your 5th house. So now what happens next is on the 28th of December, we see that Mercury is going to be transiting into Capricorn. and we will not be discussing this transit, because this transit is only going to take place for 2 days, after which Mercury is going to turn retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. So we are not going to discuss in detail what happens when Mercury is going to be getting into the sign of Capricorn. Now what happens next is, on the 29th of December, Venus is going to move into Capricorn, and this is happening in your 6th house, and it is going to get conjunct your Saturn. So this shows the fact that the kind of lively, the kind of spur of the moment sort of demeanor, or the kind of mantra that you had adopted during this transitory period through your 5th house is going to come to an end with the Venus's transit into the sign of Capricorn, because it's getting conjunct the planet of realism, the planet of karma, the planet of hardships. So you can understand the fact that whatever kind of relationships you might have festered or just like adopted during that time period would not actually manifest into something much serious. Or you might want to make it work somehow, but you might actually tend to understand the fact that it is not realistically like a right match for you. There might be a lot of points which might be you might very critically assess that sort of relationship, and you might come to a conclusion that it was not really something that you wanted to have for like a longer duration. So that sort of equation can come about. Or you can become quite serious and critical about it and start to look into it very seriously and want to actually be able to sustain that relationship. But somehow I feel it's not a very conducive energy at this point for you to be able to cultivate a new relationship. So also when it comes to the terms of your professional aspect, this can show the fact that whatever kind of reconsiderations regarding your work that you were having, you're sort of going to have a reality check regarding those things. And these might come especially on the basis of the kind of colleagues that you have around yourself at this point. So there might be some of your colleagues who might actually be trying to go behind your back and basically spread some rumors or spread some sort of the work enemy sort of vibe might come about at this point, wherein that might be the last chip which falls, and you're like, you know what, I can't take this anymore, and I need to kind of get out of this environment because it's quite toxic for me at this point. So that sort of pushover kind of equation can also come about in a way. And there is also the aspect that you might be right now looking at your finances and being able to kind of parlay your professional pay into greater savings for yourself, and how to get rid of debt and things like that. So that is something that also presents itself here. Now what happens next is, on the 31st of December, Mercury is going to turn retrograde into the sign of Sagittarius, and this is happening in your 5th house. So you are definitely going to come across at this point as someone who might have their communication misconstrued. So even though there might be some sort of chaos around you, the way you go about tackling that whole issue might not be in your best interest, or it might not have an outcome which is favorable to you. So it is something that you have to be cognizant of, and you have to be careful of with regards to how you're basically going to be able to communicate your thoughts, your ideals, and how you're basically going to formulate and ideate your thought processes at this point is going to be extremely crucial. So, and this is also particularly not a great time for you to travel and have any impromptu kind of vacations, because the plans that you make might actually become hindered during this period. Also, there's a possibility that whatever kind of romantic connection you had spurred up in during that travel might actually come back to you and be like wanting to start something back again. That sort of energy is also present. So these kind of themes present itself at the exact end of the year for you at this point. So these are all the predictions for you. Let me know in the comment section if any of the predictions have resonated with you, And I hope all these kind of troubles dissipate for you, and hope you have a great year ahead. Thank you so much for watching. So, Virgos, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be turning out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So, we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio, and this is happening in your third house. And right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury is also going to join Venus in your third house in the sign of Scorpio. So what we can see here is the fact that your the planet that rules your sign, Virgo, which is Mercury, is going in your third house, and that too in a sign like Scorpio. So this definitely means that you are right now self assured about your abilities. You're able to kind of channelize your efforts and your work into materializing the kind of outcomes that you want to achieve for yourself at this point, definitely. So that is something that can be seen. This can also represent the fact that you can be secretive with regards to your intentions, with regards to your work, with regards to your effort right now. You're sort of in that zone of talk less, show more sort of a situation, wherein you're not talking about what you're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve, but you're certainly working very hard towards it. So that sort of energy represents itself when this kind of conjunction of energy is happening here. And this can also show the fact that you might be able to travel very instantaneously to close distances. Like you're not going to take long like vacations or something of that sort, but something like a very small kind of travel within your vicinity, and sort of that kind of travel might be possible for you at this point as well. And it might come suddenly out of the blue, but it wouldn't have been planned or something of that sort, but you can take on that kind of journey as well. So that is the kind of energy which represents itself here. Now what happens on the 13th of November also is that Mars is going to turn retrograde in your ninth house and in the sign of Taurus. So this Mars's transit into the sign of Taurus has been a long one. While it started somewhere around September, and it went out of that sign, then it's now coming back into the sign of Taurus, but in retrograde motion. So all of this has been discussed in a video that has been released prior on the channel, and it will be linked in the description box. You can also check it out by clicking the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen as well. And this, I would definitely recommend you watch it, because it's such a substantial sort of a transit which is going to go on until next year March. So definitely something to keep in watch right now. But what happens here is that what we need to discuss is the fact that Mars from your ninth house is going to be putting its aspect onto your third house. So there is this sort of contemplation regarding the fact that you are excited to take on longer duration of travels or something of that sort, and to be able to kind of figure out certain things regarding your identity in relation to, let's say, your religious, your spiritual, or your philosophical beliefs. That is something that you want to do. You want to travel far and wide and be able to go on these journeys to explore cultures and things like that. But it might not come as easily to you at this point. And also you are right now looking at being able to, even further your educational prospects and to take on certain educational qualifications, higher educational qualifications. And that is something that you are right now willing to work very hard towards, and you're putting in all your efforts to be able to manage that and make that a reality, whichever sort of school or college or institution or university you're eyeing right now. So that sort of thing also presents itself, wherein some sort of vocation or something that you want to undertake is going to be your priority at this point, and it is going to drive a hard bargain regarding the kind of efforts and the kind of work that you're putting behind being able to achieve those things. So that is also an energy which presents itself here. And this can also show the fact that you might possibly have some sort of verbal disagreements with your father, and that can sort of cause you to have this kind of a change in the kind of relationship dynamics you have even with your siblings, and possibly your younger siblings. So that sort of propensity is also present here with the planetary energies as well. So definitely be very cognizant of the kind of conversations you're having at this point, because you might be predisposed to be quite combative, and you can be misconstrued at this point as well. So be careful regarding those factors. So now what happens next is on the 16th of November, Sun is also conjoining in this whole planetary energy happening in your third house in the sign of Scorpio. All the kind of themes which have been mentioned up until now are going to further accentuate only. And you're going to work extremely hard towards getting these kind of opportunities that you want to achieve, getting the kind of professional goals you want to achieve, the educational goals you want to achieve. So it's a very, very good time for you to grind right now and to be able to really make your dreams your reality at this point. So that is a really good energy. You can also possibly get into some sort of relationship or some sort of connections online, wherein you start some sort of a relationship, whatever we can call it, through the online medium. It might be some apps, dating apps, or some sort of social media thing. So that is also a possibility here, and it might be quite secretive, like you're not disclosing that fact to people, or even if you kind of progress into that equation, you're not going to keep it out and about. It's going to be quite on the down low sort of a situation. So that can also be something that can be expected to come out of this whole aspect and conjunction energy happening in your third house. So what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to turn direct in the sign of Pisces, and this is happening in your seventh house. So what we can see is the fact that there has been a video which is already released on this channel regarding this aspect and transition, which I will be linking in the description box, or you can check out the I button as well to see the link to that video. And in that video particularly, it has been extensively discussed what sort of significations can be expected to come about with this transit, but it is exclusively being spoken about when it comes to the terms of Jupiter in its retrograde motion. So when you see that video, you have to understand the fact that whatever significations were discussed in that video are all now going to turn opposite. So you can expect a much more forward momentum and much more beneficial sort of prospects when it comes to your Jupiter's transit through your seventh house. What is a very significant thing here is the fact that the Jupiter being present or transiting through your seventh house now shows the fact that it's going to kind of help you to be able to become much more altruistic in your intentions regarding partnerships. So this is because Jupiter from your seventh house is putting a ninth aspect onto your third house, wherein all these planetary energies are present in the sign of Scorpio. So this shows the fact that whatever sort of these connections that you develop over social media, and you might feel at that point that it is just something that is a transitory phase, and it's not something which is quite serious. But there might be an instance wherein you right now could have this sort of change in your perception in a way that you actually start to modify your intentions regarding these sort of relationships, and you want to actually be able to materialize it into something possibly. But also you can be very much into the zone of I want to have fun, and I want to be able to enjoy these kind of dalliances and things like that. So it's like that sort of a dichotomy to a certain extent regarding those relationships as well. And this is a great time for you to join into a business partnership or even into a romantic partnership. So these kind of energies represent themselves here. Now, what happens is with this, we close out all the transits that are happening in November, and we move on to the transits that will be happening in the month of December. And we start off by on the 3rd of December, we see that Mercury will be transiting further into the sign of Sagittarius. And on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to conjoin energy in the sign of Sagittarius in your 4th house. So what this means for you is that you might right now become quite involved with the matters of the home, the matters of the family, the familial unit, how your dynamics are at home, what sort of situations are arising at your home, what sort of values your parents inhabit, especially when it comes to their religious, in terms of their spiritual and philosophical beliefs. And that might be something you can have at the forefront of your mind at this point, wherein you're kind of tallying how these things make sense with your beliefs and your understanding and your view of certain facts of these themes. So what we also can see here is the fact that you can right now be quite inclined to be able to have like an open communicational channel with your family, wherein you would like to sit and discuss these kind of issues with them, whatever that might have arisen, and you are right now dedicated to kind of work through those issues and be able to resolve conflict and things like that. So that is certainly like a good omen here. Also, you could possibly be as I said and mentioned before, that you are looking out for some educational prospects, and that can happen quite far away from your home. So this can also signify a change in your place of living, and you being actually able to move out of your house and into like a new chapter of your life. So that is also a sort of energy which represents itself here. And we can also see that once on the 16th of December, Sun also conjoins this energy which is happening in your 4th house. It further goes to establish the fact that you are right now trying to rebuild the burnt bridges within your familial unit. And this might happen because you might have this innate sense of feeling that, okay, if I'm moving away, I need to at least make my relationships here become as cordial as possible. So that sort of equation can also come about here. Or it is just simply you working on your home, like even like refurbishing, beautifying your house, being able to dedicate time to actually make certain changes to your house and certain changes, and be able to even maybe travel with your family as a unit, and take certain vacations. That can also be possible during this time period as well. So that is also a possibility, or even with your romantic partner. So that sort of energy represents itself right now with these planetary energies in your 4th house. So what happens next is on the 28th of December, Mercury is going to be transiting into Capricorn. And this is like a very insignificant transit because it's going to only go on for 2 days, and then after that Mercury is going to go turn retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. So we're not going to sit and discuss what happens for 2 days when Mercury goes into the sign of Capricorn. So next what happens is on the 29th of December, Venus is going to turn and transit into the sign of Capricorn, and this is happening in your 5th house. So this certainly shows the fact that there might be some sort of realism or some sort of realistic expectations that you might get hit with when it comes to especially your romantic relationships. So you might have been in this sort of, I just want to enjoy, or I want to just like whatever, like your intentions were with that sort of connection or equation. But at this point you might become quite realistic regarding the prospects of starting or continuing these sort of relationships. So that can definitely be something that you can see. Or if you are already in existing relationships, then you can feel that a certain level of charm or fun or excitement becomes a little effervescent within your relationships. It becomes quite serious, realistic, mature. So that sort of vibe comes into your romantic relationships at this point. And you can also right now sit and contemplate regarding your work prospects, how you're basically going to be dealing with your work prospects, your career prospects, your professional pursuits, and these kind of themes. And you might also be wanting to kind of become quite realistic personally when it comes to the kind of dreams and the kind of things you want to achieve even. So you might actually take a step back and want to be like, okay, fine, let me just like become realistic for a moment and see if whatever aspirations I'm having at this point or whatever I'm working towards, is it even manageable? Is it even something that I can achieve at this point or not? So this is like a time of contemplation for you at this point to be able to really understand what is happening. So, and this can feel quite out of sorts for you. Like you might become quite bothered by this sort of tension happening right now, because you might have felt this kind of forward momentum, but now you feel like, okay, I need to just take a step back and realize and assess what is really happening at this point. So that sort of energy presents itself. And lastly, on the 31st of December, we see that Mercury is going to turn retrograde in your fourth house. So what happens here is the fact that whatever kind of communicational channels you were trying to put down with your family members to be able to communicate better, to be able to ideate better with them and things like that, will all turn quite regressed. And it might become very much, let's say, it can turn quite combative, and you might be misconstrued or misunderstood. Your words might be taken out of context at this point, and that will lead to some sort of disagreements with your family, wherein there might be choice of words being thrown up and about between members. And so the whole situation can turn quite ugly and sticky. So definitely be careful of that sort of energy representing itself during that time. Also, if you have a plan of any impromptu trips with your family to a long distance travel or something of that sort, I would certainly recommend don't do it, because there might be a lot of disturbances with regards to those plans as well. But if you've already planned it and you're well on the way, so definitely be a little aware of the fact that things might not pan out as you would preferably have ideally wanted it to. So there might be some sort of disruptions or changes in your plans as well. Also with regards to your academic aspirations and things like that. So this is the ending of the year is quite a lot of time for you to sit back and evaluate these sort of things. But also you need to understand that these are things which can, these kind of fears or doubts can come about, but that shouldn't be so strong that the whole trajectory of your dreams is changed just because of certain fears or certain doubts that creep up from time to time. So that is definitely something that I would tell you right now. And with this, we have discussed all your planetary transits happening during this period. Let me know if any of the predictions have resonated with you. I hope you have a great year ahead, and thank you so much for watching. So Libras, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to turn out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting into the sign of Scorpio. And on the 13th of November, Mercury will also be transiting into the sign of Scorpio in your second house. So both of these benefic planets being present in your second house can definitely show the fact that you might be right now contemplating and thinking about your financial savings, your financial prospects with regards to being able to achieve financial security, and that is going to be something that is at the forefront of your mind. And you are right now looking into how you would be able to maximize your financial savings and be able to kind of work towards getting more secure financially. So that energy is quite prevalent right now. You could also possibly, out of a blue, get some sort of money at this point, wherein you weren't expecting it per se, but it does, actually come to you, because the planet that rules your sign, which is Venus, is going 2 places away from itself in your second house. So this definitely shows that there is a monetary benefit that is going to come your way definitely right now. And it can be quite sudden basically. You can also be around your family and being able to relate quite a lot to your familial values, and you could also right now be very indulgent with the kind of food that you are having at this point. You can be quite experimentative with it. You might want to indulge in food right now. So those sort of energies definitely present themselves here. And you might actually maybe even get to know someone right now who has been in a way somehow known by your family possibly, and that is like a way that you meet this person. And it happens in a very unexpected fashion, so it takes you off guard a little bit, but there's a possibility of that happening as well. So these are the kind of themes which will present themselves because of these transits happening in your second house. And right on the 13th of November, another event that is happening is that Mars is going to turn retrograde in your 8th house, in the sign of Taurus. And this whole transit of Mars into the sign of Taurus, and which was in direct motion before from September until November, and then it was briefly in Gemini, and then now it's back again into Taurus in the retrograde motion, is quite a significant transit, because this is like a 8-month transit, and this is going to go on until March of next year. So this back and forth energy which is present in Taurus is definitely something that you should be paying attention to. And there is a separate video which has been published on the channel, which will be linked in the description box, as well as you can click the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen as well, which will direct you to that video, and you can check that out once you're finished watching your predictions for this video. And what is quite significant is the same factor, as in you might get some sort of unexpected gains from other people's profit, or you are looking right now at trying to gain some sort of financial benefits, maybe even from your family, and there is a prospect that that is something that you're looking forward to and that you could possibly also be able to achieve, but with a little bit of more of back and forth regarding the whole procedure and process. So that can be the kind of thing which presents itself with this planetary energy. And what also happens here is, from this 8th house, Mars is going to be putting its direct aspect onto your second house. So it again further shows the fact that you can right now be able to be geared towards achieving higher financial status, higher financial security. You just want to feel secure right now with relation to your finances. You want to be assured of the fact that one portion of your life at this point is working seamlessly, because for you right now, a lot of things are up in the air. So that is one sort of thing which you are right now looking forward to, being able to sort of manage and be able to kind of make sure that that is working fine. One of the cogs in the machinery of your life is working fine. So there's a hyper focus right now on being able to manage your finances, definitely. So this sort of energy presents itself with this aspect as well. And next, what we see is on the 16th of November, Mars is going to turn and transit into the sign of Scorpio as well. And this is further just going to accentuate the energies that we have been discussing up until this point. And you're going to feel all those energies even more significantly so when Sun also transits into the sign of Scorpio in your second house as well. Now what happens next on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be turning direct and coming out of its retrograde motion in the sign of Pisces. And this is going to be happening in your 6th house. And again, this aspect has been well documented and spoken about in another video, which has been previously released on the channel. Again, You can check it in the description box, or clicking the I button can also lead you to that video. So when you see this video, you have to know the fact that the video has exclusively discussed how Jupiter's retrograde transit is going to be affecting your sign. But what you have to do is, when you listen to this video, you have to take all the significations which are discussed and you have to basically turn them opposite. And whatever you hear, rather than being challenging, is now going to feel much more forward in momentum, right? So what this says is basically that you are right now going to be much more cordial and much more benevolent and much more giving right now in your professional sphere. And that is something that can be like a characteristic right now that everybody is able to experience around you. And you might in a way be also open to kind of getting targeted because of it also, because when you're kind of unsuspecting, that is when people kind of proverbially put a knife in your back. So not to scare you, but yeah, there's a possibility of you not being able to see certain people who don't have your best interests in their hearts. So definitely that sort of energy can also represent itself here in your professional space and with your work colleagues. But what is quite significant here is the fact that from 6th house, Jupiter is going to be putting its 9th aspect onto your 2nd house. So this definitely talks about the fact that you might be right now very much geared towards, being able to even parlay your professional pays and the monetary benefits you receive from your job per se, and being able to translate that into higher savings, and being able to basically maybe you're even looking at being able to work towards a higher pay, and that is something that you are right now contemplating as well. So that sort of energy represents itself here. There is also the possibility wherein you might actually be able to receive some sort of advice, maybe from one of your work colleagues, that actually helps you to catalyze on your professional prospects and be able to further increase your financial savings. That is also a possibility which might arise here as well. Now, these are all the aspects that are going to be happening in the month of November. And now we will look at the transits which will be happening in the month of December. And we start off with, on the 3rd of December, Mercury is going to be transiting into the sign of Sagittarius, and this is going to happen in your 3rd house. And right after that, Venus is going to be transiting also in the sign of Sagittarius in your 3rd house. So this definitely shows the fact that you might right now be very inclined to be quite communicative regarding your prospects, regarding your hard work. You want people to notice how hard you're working at this point, how much dedication you have towards your profession or towards your even your financial prospects, how hard you are willing to put efforts into being able to manifest better results for yourself as expected, or as you are being able to contemplate and dream about or imagine about. So those sort of things can present itself. You are right now quite geared also towards being quite self-assured and confident regarding your prospects at work, and in general your prospects to be able to ideate and function very well when it comes to achieving your goals. So that is also something that presents itself when this energy conjoins in your 3rd house. And communicatively, you will be extremely eloquent with regards to being able to communicate your ideas. Also, especially these ideas can be in relation to your religious or your spiritual or your philosophical beliefs as well. And you might be discussing this in some sort of close-knit group, which is in close vicinity to you. So that sort of prospect can also be presenting itself here. And this is also a time wherein you will feel especially close with your siblings, especially maybe the younger ones, and you might even take up some vacationing or traveling with them as well during this period. So all in all, it's a very positive, transit for you at this point. Now what happens is next on the 16th of December, we see that Sun is also going to come here and it's going to conjoin in your third house with all these planetary energies which are already present here. So this further only accentuates everything that we have discussed regarding the planetary energies happening in your third house. You're going to become even more confident, even more self-assured regarding your efforts. You're going to want to work harder towards achieving your goals, be it financial, be it professional goals. So that sort of energy definitely further accentuates with this whole aspect and transit. What happens next is on the 28th of December, Mercury is going to be transiting into the sign of Capricorn. And this is like a very insignificant transit because right after that, within 2 days, it's going to turn retrograde back again into the sign of Sagittarius. So we're not going to sit and discuss what happens for 2 days when Mercury goes into the sign of Capricorn. Now, what happens next is on the 29th of December, we see that Venus is going to be moving into the sign of Capricorn in your fourth house. And then it is going to get conjunct with Saturn, which is already transiting through your fourth house. So this definitely shows that there is some sort of check or realism which comes into the factor of your relationship with your family and your familial relationships or equations at home, definitely. So you might be right now in this sort of like a mirage gets broken wherein you're like, oh, so this is how it's going to be like. Or especially even with your professional prospects wherein you're like, okay, maybe this is not what it's all pent up to be, or this is not working out in my favor really. So it's a very realistic sort of a outlook regarding your professional prospects and as well as your familial equations and your equations at home as well. So this is definitely a sort of time wherein you take a step back and kind of realize these the central themes of both of these kind of matters in hand right now, be it your work, profession and things like that, and also your family. So that sort of equation presents itself, and wherein you also have to check really how are you investing and how is it really benefiting you at this point. And you might also be vaguely interested in actually parlaying your financial savings into let's say a real estate investment. So that can also be something that you would potentially be interested in at this point when Venus and Saturn both get conjunct in your fourth house. So that is also a prospect that happens here. Now what happens next is on the 31st of December, we see that Mercury is going to turn retrograde in your third house. So now there is going to come this sort of verbal challenges with regards to talking about the things that you believe in, talking about the things that you were very eloquent regarding before. So you might now face challenges wherein whatever you say gets misconstrued, and people are now going to assume the worst rather than try to hear you out completely. So that sort of challenge can present itself definitely with this energy. And also there is a possibility that if you had kind of connected with someone online and there was this sort of spark regarding whatever equations that you shared with them, right now there might be a chance wherein your communication is not just working out really, and you're sort of in a space where you're like, you know what, I don't think this is working, and we need to kind of contemplate and really understand what is happening in a very realistic sense rather than being very willy-nilly about it. So that sort of energy also further represents itself wherein you will also kind of contemplate or think about or ideate and question your efforts at this point, wherein you will think if you are deriving this sort of self-assurance in a vague sense, and is it misguided rather than being necessary and you walking on the right path. So that sort of indecision can also represent itself when Mercury turns retrograde in your third house. And if you are planning on any trips with your let's say your siblings or something of that sort, and your plans were impromptu or they were already planned, I would definitely say be a little aware of the fact that your plans might turn a little unexpected, and from the outcomes that you were expecting them to basically follow. So definitely be aware of that prospect as well. So all in all, these were all your predictions for this period up until the end of December 2022. I hope some of the predictions have resonated with you. If so, then please definitely leave your experiences in the comment section below. And I hope this period dissipates all these kind of tensions that are happening right now. And hope you have a great year ahead. Thank you so much for watching. So Scorpios, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be turning out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that first on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury is also going to be joining this transit into the sign of Scorpio. And so this is going to be happening in your first house of self. And this kind of shows the probability of the fact that you are right now going to come across as very vibrant and quite magnetic and basically quite mysterious, and you will have that sort of capability right now to attract people to you right now, and they would be enamored by your beauty or your charm or your wit and how you communicate. So those sort of things, so you can be quite alluring and quite tempting at this point of time. So if you have someone who you kind of like, and you want to basically get with someone or something of that sort, then this is a really good time for you to play your cards and get with somebody who you have been fancying for some time. So this is like a very conducive energy to have a very charming and a very pleasant demeanor in general, but because it's also happening in that intense energy of Scorpio, so there is this charm in its own way, wherein it's a little standoffish to a certain extent, very unpredictable in a sort of way, but it's still very alluring and mysterious nonetheless. So that sort of demeanor or personality is something that you would be exuding at this point, and it can be quite attractive for people to be around you right now. So that sort of thing represents itself here. Also, we see that on the 13th of November, Mars is also going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and this is going to be happening in your 7th house of romantic partnerships and business partnerships. So this whole transit of Mars in the sign of Taurus has been quite a significant one, because Mars went into the sign of Taurus around September, then in the middle around November it changed signs, and now it's back into Taurus but in a retrograde motion. And it's going to be here in the sign of Taurus up until the end of March next year almost. So it's a very significant sort of transit that is happening, and also this is quite crucial for you because planet that rules your sign, Mars is the ruler of your sign of Scorpio, and because it's in retrograde motion right now going through your 7th house, this shows the fact that there are chances wherein, as I said before, you are going to be quite attractive at this point. People might get attracted by you, and they want to get with you, or they want to be with you, associate with you, that sort of a feeling. But this can also show the possibility of you attracting not the right kind of people even. So there might be someone who gets attracted to you or who comes in your circle in that way, but this person is not necessarily the best person for you to be with. So that sort of energy represents itself here. And if you are already in a relationship, then this Mars' retrograde transit through your 7th house can definitely show some sort of challenges with regards to the drive that both of the partners possess in that relationship. It might become that your drive regarding certain things becomes quite overwhelming as opposed to your partner, and that intensity can kind of meddle with the peaceful functioning of your relationship. So that sort of thing also comes forth when Mars is going to be retrograde in your 7th house. And this also shows the possibility of the fact that if you are in a business partnership, you have to be extremely careful of how you're basically investing into the business, and how you are able to still have your personal interests secured and your personal assets to be saved, as opposed to have that tumultuous up and down with regards to the business that you're indulging in. So those are the kind of themes that represent themselves when Mars is going to be in this house. And I would still recommend you watch the video wherein there's a detailed analysis about this transit, and it will be linked in the description box. And you can also check it by clicking the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen as well. So what is very significant here to understand is the fact that Mars from your 7th house is going to be aspecting your 1st house and vice versa. So what can be seen here basis of this aspect is the fact that you're extremely driven right now to kind of be in sort of romantic relationships, to be in sort of partnerships, to be in sort of even business partnerships. And this is a very conducive time for you to get with people and be able to form connections, be it romantic or business. But you have to be a little careful regarding what kind of people you're basically letting in, and what sort of intentions do they really harbor. So that sort of energy represents itself here. Also, if you have any sort of joint finances with your partner, and there is a probability that you are supposed to kind of receive some money on the basis of someone else's profits, that is also a kind of relevance which is created when these kind of planetary energies represent themselves in these sort of positions as well. So you can definitely achieve some sort of benefit from other people's profits. It might be just on the basis of your business, or you might actually achieve something from your partner as well, maybe your wife or your husband and things like that. So that is also something that can be seen here. And I would also definitely say that with your ascendant lord or the planet that rules your sign being retrograde, you definitely need to be a little careful regarding your health in general. And this is further substantiated by the fact that your Rahu Ketu axis is being activated in the 6th 12th sign axis. So I would definitely recommend you to pay very close attention to your health at this point, and also maybe the health of your partner as well. So these are the kind of central themes that you will be seeing with these planetary energies and transitions. Now what happens next is on the 16th of November, Sun is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And this is again happening in your 1st house. So all the sort of significations and all the sort of results that we discussed up until now are just going to be further substantiated and further solidified by Sun's transit also in your sign as well. So what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be turning direct in the sign of Pisces, and it's going to be coming out of its retrograde motion, and this is going to be happening in your 5th house. So there is a separate video which has been created on the channel previously, and it has a detailed discussion regarding this transit, and it will be linked in the description box, or you can also click the I button and check that video out as well. So with that video, especially whenever you check it, you need to remember the fact that that video is solely created for the fact that what are the kind of significations that are present for your sign when Jupiter is going to be retrograde. So when you listen to this video, you have to understand that whatever kind of significations have been discussed wherein things are challenging, or things could have been more rudimentary to a certain extent, now they're going to turn much more forward momentum and positive. And all of this energy being concentrated in your 5th house definitely shows that you are right now going to want to indulge in romantic relationships. You are wanting to basically have that yearning of connecting with someone and connecting with people. So that is definitely something that represents itself again, and you can definitely check out that video to understand more about what this transit means for you. Now what also needs to be seen here specifically is the fact that from the 5th house, Jupiter is going to be putting its 9th aspect onto your 1st house. and all the planets that are there at this point, which is a hugely beneficial aspect by the most benefic planet in the astrology. So what you need to understand is that all these kind of, the kind of charm you have right now, the kind of aura that you're giving off right now is all basically working out in your benefit. And there might be certain challenges with regards to, let's say, because the sign of Scorpio is very much related to transformatory energies and unexpected events. So there might be certain events which might be caused, and possibly this might be in your relationships, which cause you to kind of contemplate and, reprogram your approach regarding your personality and things like that. So whatever kind of challenges you're facing regarding your self identity, or even, let's say, your health in general, you have to understand that this is all at the end going to be working out in your benefit. So that is something that you definitely need to keep in mind. And also there's a possibility that if you are married and there is a possibility wherein you were wanting to conceive a child, the possibility of you actually being able to do so during this period is also quite high. But there are also other things that needs to be seen in a chart, but the possibility definitely surely is present here during this transit as well. So those are the kind of transits that are going to be taking place in the month of November. And now we go on to checking what are the transits that are happening in December. And starting off with, on the 3rd of December, Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. And right after that, on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius in your second house. So all these beneficiary planets of Venus and Mercury are now going to go into your second house. And this can show the sort of fact that you might actually be able to receive some sort of benefits monetarily right now, which will help you to kind of re-establish your financial security and stability at this point, which is something that will be at the forefront of your mind. This can also show the possibility that you are right now in the basically way of connecting with your family in a much better sense, and being able to relate with your familial values and your family unit much better. So that is also a kind of energy which represents itself during this transit. This can also show the fact that you are right now quite indulgent with the kind of food you're consuming, which I would still arguably say you have to be a little careful about, since there is already these kind of instances wherein the concerns regarding your health are already present there. So I would definitely say be a little cautious regarding that as well. And in general, you can come off as quite eloquent and very well appreciated and liked within the kind of communication you're having at this point. So people are going to want to listen to you and be able to articulate and be able to ideate very well around this time and period. So all these kind of significations are presenting itself with this. And when the next transit happens on the 16th of December, we see that Sun is going to also join this planetary conjunction which is happening in your second house. So all of these three planets are going to be in the second house, and all of the significations as mentioned are going to be present there. So that is the primary sort of energy which is representative when it comes to your second house, being that you are right now maybe going to be very focused on securing your assets to be able to basically build on your assets basically. And that is something which presents itself here. And you can also be quite connected with your family unit at this point. Now, what happens next is on the 28th of December, we see that Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn. But this is happening for a very small amount of time, just for 2 days, after which it is going to go back into the retrograde motion in the sign of Sagittarius. So we will not be sitting and discussing here as to how Mercury will be, presenting its results for the 2 days that it's going to be transiting in Capricorn. So we will move next to the fact that on the 29th of December, Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn. And this is going to be happening in your third house with the presence of already the Saturn, which is transiting through the sign. So what is going to happen here is the fact that the kind of effort that you are willing to put in when it comes to communicating with your partner is going to be something that can be a little challenging at this point, and it can kind of create these sort of roadblocks or issues wherein it becomes quite difficult to basically be able to reach a consensus or to be able to feel like you are both on the same boat, basically. So it's going to be quite a jolt of realism when it comes to your romantic relationships and equations that are going to be presented during this transit, especially in your third house. Now, what also is representative here is because Venus is the planet that signifies, monetary benefits and things like that, and present in conjunction with Saturn, which is like a planet of restriction. It can definitely show that there is a risk of you actually, being able to lose some money at this point, even though despite of your hard work towards being able to stabilize those things or being able to secure your assets, there might be a chance wherein you are going to be risking your financial security and the safety of your assets at this point. So this is something that you have to be careful of regarding, and you have to still keep working towards the fact that you want to put all your hard work and all your energy into being able to monetarily fare better at this point. And this also shows that there might be some chances wherein you are feeling quite inadequate with regards to your efforts that you're putting, or with regards to the kind of communicative abilities that you're experiencing or you are giving off at this point. So those are the kind of things that will be experienced with this transit. Now, what happens next is at the end of the month of December 2022, on the 31st of December, we see that Mercury is going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. And this is going to be happening in your second house. So this further goes on to show the fact that all that sort of presence of interest and ideas with regards to securing your assets is going to turn a little difficult, wherein you're also exposed to the possibility of becoming so agitated with the kind of monetary functionalities that are happening around you right now that it can turn you to actually vent out on your family members, and this might lead you to have these kind of communicatory disagreements with your family, especially with regards to maybe their value systems or with regards to your financial abilities and the kind of decisions that you're creating regarding your finances at this point. So these kind of challenges might represent themselves at this point, and even if you are planning on some sort of vacation or some sort of travel with your family around this period, I would definitely say if you cannot cancel it, then definitely be a little careful regarding the fact that the plans that you have sort of set in motion might not exactly go as you planned it out to be. So be a little careful regarding that prospect as well. And with this, all the kind of significations which were related to the planetary transits that are taking place during this period have been discussed for you. I hope you have related to the predictions that have been shared. If so, then definitely leave your experiences in the comment section below. I hope these kind of challenges that you're facing at this point can overcome them soon. And thank you so much for watching. So Sagittarians, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be like for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury is also going to be joining Venus transit through the sign of Scorpio. So both of these planets are going to be present in your 12th house at this point, and the Venusian energies find exaltation in the 12th house, and the sign which is associated with those themes of the 12th house, which is Pisces. So in a way, here we can see the fact that you are right now very much inculcated with regards to actually being able to become quite lovelorn, in the sense that you are willing to sacrifice quite a lot for your loved one to be able to sustain that sort of a relationship that you have. And this is going to be quite a challenging time, because it might feel like you're trying to hold on to something which might not necessarily be working in your favor at this point. So this will feel a little triggering, because also the sign that this energy is right now happening in is in the sign of Scorpio. And this kind of shows the ability of quite a transformative sort of an experience to come about with regards to your ability to be able to give love to your partner, and the amount of loss that you would want to sustain in order to kind of maintain that sort of relationship. So that is the kind of a probability that might arise because of this transit. Also, you can tend to become quite isolated at this point to a certain extent, wherein you are not as communicative as you would generally have liked to be, and that is going to be a little isolating for you at this point, wherein you kind of become a little introspective regarding things within your life, and you're becoming a little trying to understand and figure out what's happening around you at this point. So that sort of energy presents itself here. Also, on the 13th of November, we see that Mars is going retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and this is going to be happening in your 6th house. So what do we see here is that Mars and its transit into the sign of Taurus has been going on since September this year, and for a brief period of time it moved into the sign of Gemini, but now it's back into the sign of Taurus in the retrograde motion, and it's going to be there until next year, March. So this is quite a significant transit, and there is a video that has been released prior on the channel regarding this, which you can definitely watch to understand how this is going to be affecting your sign. It will be linked in the description box, as well as you can click the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen as well to access the video. Now what happens here is the fact that Mars from here is causing you a direct aspect onto your 12th house. So there is this probability wherein you are right now becoming quite critical with regards to the facets of your life. You're becoming quite analytical with regards to the fact that, okay, what is working for me and what is not working for me really at this point. So that could be a sort of a thing that you are right now indulging in, kind of managing your finances, especially because with this energy that is happening in Taurus and the 6th house, we can expect something along the lines of maybe there is some sort of debt that you are going to undertake, or that you're wanting to let go of, so that you can increase on your financial savings. So that can be the kind of theme for you right now with the Mars's retrograde happening in your 6th house. This can also show some sort of ups and downs generally with regards to your demeanor and the kind of relationship you have with your colleagues, which might lead to some sort of even like minor discrepancies with regards to verbal disagreements and things like that as well. So that can also become a possibility here. But when it comes to the aspect that Mars is putting directly onto your 12th house, this definitely shows the fact that you are right now in a zone wherein you are obsessed with figuring out things and getting a sort of a finality on issues and stuff like that. So it can be that sort of feeling where you can also want to kind of lead into a healing journey, to be able to work on yourself and to be able to really dedicate your energy to yourself rather than just giving it away to people around you and not having it benefit you in any way or even be least reciprocated back to you. So that sort of feeling can come about with this aspect of Mars happening onto your 12th house and the planets which are transiting within that house at that point as well. So what we see is on the 16th of November next, Sun is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. So all of the significations which we have spoken about until now are just going to get further magnified with the transit of Sun happening in the sign of Scorpio as well. So your escapist tendencies, your tendencies to isolate, your tendencies to introspect, to self-reflect, and all these things are just going to become more magnified at this point. So these are the kind of themes which might come about at this point, and these situations can be quite painful to say the least, because they might trigger some sort of transformation within you. So that sort of energy presents itself with the Sun's transit as well. So now what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be coming out of its retrograde motion and it's going to fall into the direct motion in the sign of Pisces. And this is happening in your 4th house. And this is quite significant for you because as a Sagittarian, you are ruled by the planet of Jupiter. So Jupiter being present and coming out of your retrograde motion here can definitely show that the kind of tension which might have been there within your family unit or within the kind of dynamics that you are having at home will definitely start to let up a little bit, and it might work in your benefit to a certain extent. Also, with regards to a detailed analysis of this transit, there is a video which has been released prior. It will be linked in the description box. Also, click the I button. You will find it easily accessible there as well. But when you watch that video, what you need to be cognizant of is the fact that that video has exclusively a detailed analysis with regards to the retrograde motion of Jupiter. So whatever you listen and understand from that video regarding your significations and for your zodiac sign, you have to just take everything and turn it opposite. So whatever challenges were there regarding things at that point are now going to turn positive, and it's going to feel much more forward momentum in general. So I will definitely urge you to watch that video as well to get a clearer picture regarding these things, and especially because your ascendant lord itself or the planet that rules you is Jupiter, so it's quite significant for you. And the one thing which needs to be mentioned here is the fact that Jupiter from your 4th house is going to be putting its 9th aspect onto your transiting Venus, Mercury, and Sun in the 12th house. So this definitely again further shows the fact that you might be right now going through these kind of tough experiences with regards to your relationships. But what you need to also understand is that whatever kind of changes and transformations are being thrust upon you in a way right now are all going to turn out to be in your benefit, because the most benefic planet, Jupiter, is putting its very benefic aspect onto your 12th house at this point. So I would definitely say trying to transcend over these kind of situations and having like an optimistic outlook would definitely help you to tide through these tough times at this point. So these are all the kind of aspects that will be transitions that will be taking place during the period of November. Now moving on to checking what sort of transits are going to be taking place in the month of December, we see that Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius on the 3rd of December. And right after that, on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. This is going to be happening in your 1st house of self. So this theme wherein, you are right now trying to focus on reinventing yourself. You're trying to be able to make certain changes, be able to not be as benevolent that it literally makes people take undue advantage of you, sort of a situation, is something that is going to come into higher manifestation now. So you are right now wanting to basically work on yourself, to basically revamp your persona, revamp your personality. And this can come out to be quite magnetic, because people might actually be able to see this sort of shift in your demeanor, or shift in the sort of perception that you have at this point regarding yourself. So it is definitely going to be working out in your benefit, and you need to keep moving forward with regards to self improvement, and just being able to work on that as well. So this is going to also come out as quite approving by the people who are around you, so their perception of you might become much better. And yeah, so that for all in all, for you, this is quite a great thing when the Venus and Mercury, both beneficiary planets, are going to be traveling and transiting through your first house. This is also a great time for you to travel, if that is what you would wish to do, because it might bring you a lot of happiness, it might bring you a lot of joy at this point. So definitely would suggest you to travel during this time, and it's a great time for you to explore things, and not just things, but also your views about, or your belief systems about religion, spirituality, philosophy. So it's a really good time for you to kind of dabble into these themes. So yeah, definitely do that. And 16th of December, we see that Sun is also going to be transiting in Sagittarius. So all this concentration of energy is going to start to present itself in your first house, and Sun being there, becoming like an exalted position wherein it works really well in the first house. So you are going to feel much more self-assured, much more confident about yourself. You're going to like the sort of version that you're creating regarding yourself. So all in all, it's a very positive sort of upcoming with regards to your efforts and your persona, definitely. And these kind of changes will be very perceptively seen by the people around you and noticed, and it would also maybe make you much more attractive to the people who are just coming in contact with you, or just being able to see that change within you, which is quite admirable in a way. So what happens next is on the 28th of December, we see that Mercury will be transiting through the sign of Capricorn. But this transit is not as consequential, because it's going to just be there for 2 days, and then after which it's going to turn retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. So we're not going to be discussing what happens to Mercury when it moves into Capricorn for 2 days. So we move on rather to next on the 29th of December, we see that Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn, and this is happening in your second house. So this definitely shows that your struggles with regards to being able to secure your finances, to be able to expand on your savings and your assets and things like that might become a little challenging, wherein you will have to sit back and kind of take charge regarding these things, because it might be turning quite haywire at this point. And so that sort of struggle financially can come about, wherein you need to take cognizance of the fact that how you are able to manage your finances right now, and are you able to save as much as you would like to, and what kind of investments are you really putting your chips in at this point. So that sort of energy presents itself here as well. Also, this can show the fact that maybe your familial values with relation to not just the changes that you're making within your persona, but also with regards to how you're managing your finances can become a point of disagreement and discussion. So that is also something that can come about here. Also, if you are still kind of holding on to some hope with regards to the kind of relationships that you were in, I think this kind of transit through Venus and Saturn being there together can definitely make you realize the reality of the kind of relationships you are in right now. And that can definitely be like a jolt to take you into reality, rather than just in that imaginary zone of idealism and love. So that can also be something that can happen here, and it might also be bolstered by your family's support and opinions. Now what happens at the end of this year is on 31st of December, Mercury is going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. And this is happening in your first house. So this can definitely show the fact that you might become a little disoriented at this point, wherein you might become quite confused regarding what am I really trying to do, what are my ideals, what are my thought processes, what are my beliefs, what do I want to do with regards to, my personality, what do I want. So basically a lot of self doubt, a lot of questioning starts to come about during this period. And this is also a time wherein maybe the things that you say, even if they might be well meaning, can be taken out of context and be misconstrued. So you have to be cognizant of that fact. And I would also say that if you have not planned anything for like the end of the year, any impromptu plans to take a vacation or something, I would definitely say don't plan on it, because it's not a great time for you to travel, because it has a very chaotic, disoriented energy around that space. So I will definitely say try to not indulge in traveling at that point especially. And with this, we have discussed all your planetary transits taking place from this point up until the end of December 2022 and the year 2022, in fact. So I hope these kind of challenges dissipate soon for you, and I hope you have a great year ahead. And thank you so much for watching. Capricorns, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be turning out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that firstly on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And with that, just after it, on the 13th of November, Mercury is also going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And this is going to be happening in your 11th house of expanded financial gains. So this can definitely show the energy wherein you might actually be able to suddenly get a kind of financial gain with regards to the investments that you've made. And this can also mean that based on the kind of network circle that you have or the kind of friendships that you have, they might open up certain channels of networking for you or connections for you, wherein that leads you to be able to catalyze on your financial gains and to expand that. So that sort of energy presents itself, which is frankly quite positive and really great for you. This can also show that there might be some sort of chances wherein you kind of expand or deteriorate your group of friends or network circle with regards to maybe some unexpected events that take place as well. So there is a lot of energy happening around that network circle, friend circle sort of realm and happening. So that is definitely going to be present. You might also end up meeting someone in a very unexpected fashion, who you might connect with, even romantically maybe. So that is also a possibility to be contemplated, or a probability here. Now what happens next is right there on the 13th of November, we see that Mars is going to turn retrograde in your 5th house and in the sign of Taurus. Now, Mars's transit through Taurus has been quite significant this year, because it has been going on since September, and around until November it was in the sign of Taurus. Then it moved out for a brief period, and now it's back into Taurus, but in the retrograde motion. So it's going to also go on until the next year, March. So very, very significant amount of period for you to understand how this planetary energy is going to be influencing you. So there is a prior video which has been released on the channel. It will be linked in the description box, and also you can access it through clicking the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen, and it will give you an easy access to that video. So what happens here is that I would definitely say, with regards to this month and this period of time, you can see that because Mars is going to be retrograde in your 5th house, this kind of person who you might be able to meet through your friend circle or your networking circle, you might feel a weird instantaneous attraction with them, but it is not necessary that that person might necessarily be the best fit for you. So that sort of feeling is something that can come about. Though you are instantaneously attracted to that person, and there's a sort of passionate sort of a demeanor with regards to the equation that you share, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best option for you at this point. So that sort of energy presents itself. There is also the possibility wherein you can come off in a way to be quite boisterous or quite self assured in a way where people might take it to be that you are egotistical. And that can be a probability which might basically rub people's feathers off in the wrong way. And that can be the contributory phase wherein people then are like, fine, I don't want to associate with this person anymore. Or that might be the reason why you actually end up having this kind of a choice of words back and forth within you and your network circle of friends. And that is how, basically, because of that sort of misunderstanding or the kind of verbal fight, basically, that some connections will break off. So that sort of possibility is also present here to take place. Now what happens next is on the 16th of November, we see that Sun is also going to come into your 11th house when it transits through the sign of Scorpio. So all the kind of significations which we have discussed until now will further just accentuate and become more of a possibility because of all the concentration of energies which is happening in your 11th house at this point. Now, what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be coming out of its retrograde motion and is going to turn direct in the sign of Pisces. And this is going to be happening in your third house. Now, I have exclusively discussed this transit as well in a priorly released video, which will be linked in the description box, or you can click the I button and check that out as well. When you check this video out, what you need to also understand that this video has been created with respect to how Jupiter's motion would basically influence your sign when it's in retrograde motion. Now, when you check that video out, you have to understand that whatever kind of challenges were discussed in that video are all now going to turn much more in your favor, and you are going to feel much more forward momentum. Consider the opposite of it so that you can understand the positive implications of what happens when Jupiter will be transiting through your third house. But what we need to discuss here is the fact that Jupiter from your third house will be putting its ninth aspect onto your 11th house. And all the transiting planets which are there at this point, which is Venus, Mercury, and Sun in your sign of Scorpio. So this definitely shows the fact that you are right now, whatever sort of hard work that you're putting into being able to create larger financial gains for yourself is something that you might get lucky with, and you will be able to manifest better. And also that if you are kind of losing certain people out from your circle at this point, always remember that whatever happens in the end is for your good, because the most benefic planet in astrology is putting its very good and the most benefic aspect onto your a very exalted house of the 11th house. So I would definitely say that consider the fact that whoever you're losing at this point of time in your life, if that is the case, or whatever a sudden sort of changes you're facing at this point with regards to the people who are around you in your vicinity, definitely consider the fact that it is for the best, and consider moving forward and not looking back regarding what is being lost at this point, but rather what is a higher purpose for losing those people or losing that kind of equation that you have with the people around you. So that sort of thing comes about when we see what is the Jupiter's aspect happening on, and what kind of results is it bringing with its aspect on the 11th house. So these are all the transits that will be taking place in the month of November. Now we move on to check what is going to be happening in December, wherein first we see that on the 3rd of December, Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. And right after that, on the 5th of December, Venus is also going to be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. And this is happening in your 12th house. So there is a very, very good chance wherein you can right now, be able to become quite introspective, and you want to kind of figure out certain things internally regarding yourself, be it your predisposition to certain things, what kind of belief systems you have, what kind of religious, spiritual or philosophical ideals you harbor. So those sort of things can be the general theme wherein you want to kind of explore those things, you kind of want to introspect yourself regarding those themes. So that sort of energy presents itself with this transit. Also, this can show the fact that you might be traveling at this point to far off distances, and even to maybe foreign locations, and for vacationing and things like that. And it's a good time for you to do that and indulge in some soul searching, to say the least. So it's a good time for you to be able to explore these themes at this point. And you could also be taking these kind of vacations with your loved ones. And so all in all, it's a good aspect, but also do remember that because the 12th house is the house of losses, there is a possibility that you might also have some sort of financial loss at this point. But it might very well be just the significance or the kind of circumstance which comes from expending on being vacationing or things like that. But there is a possibility of you actually having some sort of monetary loss as well. Now, what happens is next on the 16th of December, we see that Sun is also going to be coming into your 12th house in the sign of Sagittarius. And this whole energy is going to be concentrated in your 12th house, wherein you might feel much more alienated, you might feel much more reclusive or much more introspective at this point, wherein you really, really want to kind of connect with yourself and take a step back and really evaluate what sort of things are happening in your life at this point. It can be quite a lot of doubt, a lot of thinking, a lot of indecision to a certain extent as well. So it is a time for you to reflect and recharge yourself. Definitely, that's the main theme I would say with all these transits happening through your 12th house, is for you to reflect and recharge at this point regarding the status of the circumstances happening in your life at this point. So that is the kind of feeling we get when we see that all of this concentration of energy is happening in your 12th house. Also, kind of be a little cognizant of the fact that how you're making your investments, and is it really helping you to generate better profits, or is it just making you vulnerable to higher losses. So that sort of thing is also something you need to be figuring out and channelizing how to work through it. So that is also a theme which can be expected here. Now, what happens next is on the 28th of November, we see that Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn. But this is a very insignificant transit which we will not be basically speaking much about, because it's only going to be happening for 2 days, after which it is going to turn retrograde back into the sign of Sagittarius. So we're not going to be discussing much on this, but we will be moving to the next transit, which will be happening on the 29th of December, which is that Venus will be transiting in the sign of Capricorn, and this will be happening in your first house, wherein Saturn is already present. So Saturn, being the planet that rules your sign Capricorn, being present in the first house, and then Venus coming into your first house as well, I would definitely say that this is a time wherein you will sort of start to feel a little much better about your own prospects. You will also start to kind of realize I would say, the kind of monetary predicaments you have at this point. You will start to get a grasp on those things as well. I think you will also want to kind of work on yourself and your whole personality and things like that. So the kind of breakthrough you might have gotten from the soul searching that you've done might actually help you to work better towards revamping yourself to certain extents regarding the kind of lessons you've learned, or the kind of observations you've made regarding yourself. So that sort of energy presents itself. This can also show that you will be very, very much well received within people at this point, and you will start to feel much more like yourself at this point, for sure. What happens next is the last transit for this year is on the 31st of December, wherein Mercury turns retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. and this is going to be happening in your 12th house. So this is definitely showing the fact that there might be these kind of miscommunications regarding maybe even your religious, spiritual, or your philosophical ideals, wherein it turns quite difficult for you to ideate and communicate regarding these aspects, and this might make you further alienate and further kind of disassociate from people. So as I've mentioned, the prior part of the month, which is the starting of December, is much better for you to travel. I would definitely say if you have plans to travel during this time, it certainly wouldn't be as seamless as you would expect it to be. There might be some challenges which might come about with the whole aspect of traveling and being able to explore farther and further places for vacationing and things like that. So I hope that is something you also keep in check, and you're cognizant of that fact as well. And with this, all the predictions for you during this period have been discussed. I hope you related to some of the predictions which are shared. If so, then definitely leave your experiences in the comment section below. And I hope these kind of troubles and indecisions become solved much sooner for you. And thank you so much for watching. Aries, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be turning out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury will also be transiting in the sign of Scorpio, and this will be happening in your 10th house of your public perception and your work and career. So this shows the fact that you might right now be very well kind of experiencing this sort of renaissance of how people are perceiving you at work. So there might be a kind of a change within what sort of narrative people are right now ascribing to you. So the villain, or you're the altruistic person, or whatever label it might be. There can be a drastic, sudden, unexpected change in the sort of narrative about you at work, and it can at that point seem quite negative to begin with, because it will suddenly come out of the blue and it will be unexpected, hence you can feel a little taken aback by it. But in the greater scheme of things, it might work in your favor. So that sort of thing presents itself. It can also show the fact that you might be able to get a knowledge of certain things which are not the case of the general public's knowledge within the company. So you might be able to get to know certain things regarding that fact from your superiors. You might be privy to that knowledge. So that kind of thing also presents itself here, that there's some sort of secretive kind of narrative that you have been privy to right now with the regards of definitely some sort of profits, or the kind of business that has been created and things like that. So that can also be a possibility here. I would say generally this should technically signify a good and positive demeanor and reception at work. But because it's happening in the sign of Scorpio, so I would definitely say there might be some sort of shock a factor which is linked to this whole aspect taking place in your 10th house. Now what also happens on the 13th of November is that Mars is going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and this will be happening in your 4th house. So this whole aspect and transit of Mars being in the sign of Taurus has been going on since September, and up until November somewhere, where it changed signs and now it's back into Taurus in the retrograde motion though, and it's going to be the same up until the next year, March. So it's quite a significant transit, and there is a video which has been released previously on the channel, which I will definitely recommend you to watch to be able to get a better understanding and analysis as to what is really happening with regards to this transit for your sign. But what we will discuss here is the fact that Mars right now from your fourth house is putting its direct aspect onto your 10th house. So this can show the fact that there is some sort of maybe financial support that you're receiving, or just general emotional support that you're receiving from your family, with regards to the kind of tumultuous energy which may present itself at work. Or there might be some sort of help that your family unit is being able to give to you at this point, but it's not going to come out in a very conducive way. Like, it might be a little challenging to be able to receive that sort of support at this point, because Mars doesn't do really well in this fourth house. So I would definitely say it can be a little challenging to be able to receive that. And to a certain extent, it might also become the fact that you run into these kind of verbal disagreements with your family, in a certain way, especially regarding your financial matters. So that can be like the underlying sort of energy present here. But there can also be the aspect wherein there is a chance or a probability wherein you could have invested in, let's say, a rental property, and some sort of real estate and things like that. And there is a theme wherein that is supposed to be helping you out, or your focus is going to be on acquiring that sort of real estate investment, and that sort of a portfolio. So that is something which can also be seen here. And what we can also see is that next, when on the 16th of November, Sun is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio, this will again conjoin all the energies which are already happening in the 10th house. So it can show that you can become quite powerful over your, the kind of people who you have around you at this point. And you can actually be, even though there might be one sort of narrative about you, but inherently, like, the people who are in power might really know what is up with you, as in, like, they know that you are the sort of a person who can be trusted regarding work and things like that. So that kind of energy also represents itself here, and your focus is very much right now on your professional aspects and how you are being perceived and treated at work at this point. So that sort of energy is cultivated with this conjunction happening in your 10th house. Now, what happens next is on the 24th of November, we see that Jupiter is going to be transiting through your second house, and in which it will be moving out from its retrograde motion into the direct motion in the sign of Pisces. And this transit has been covered on the channel previously in a video which will be linked in the description box, and you can also access it by clicking the I button as well. So what do we need to understand here is the fact that how, when you see that video, you have to understand that the significations which are discussed in that video all need to be considered in its opposition now, because whatever challenges were being faced because of Jupiter being in the retrograde motion now will feel much more positive and in a more forward momentum based kind of a motion. So all the kind of challenges will feel much more eased and dissipated at this point. So that is the kind of effect we can see when a positive influence happens, and Jupiter in itself is a karaka or a significator for the second house, and it transiting through your second house is definitely like a really good omen for things like increasing your savings and your assets, and in general having a good repertoire with your family. So it's a really good omen for those kind of instances. But also what needs to be specifically discussed here is the fact that Jupiter from your second house is going to be putting its ninth aspect onto your 10th house, and all the transiting planets in that house at this point, which is Venus, Mercury and Sun in the sign of Scorpio. So what does this signify is the fact that the most benefic planet in astrology is putting one of its most benefic aspects onto your 10th house. So this can definitely seem that, you whatever kind of challenges or whatever kind of changes you are right now facing at work, even though it might at that point definitely be something which can be quite difficult to be able to get over, but all these changes are basically being made in order for you to escalate higher, to be able to progress better from this situation. So retain that sort of optimism, because definitely any or whatever changes are being made right now is ultimately going to be benefiting you at the end. And now that we have discussed all the transits which will be happening in November, we will now be moving on to the transits which will be taking place in December. And we will start off by seeing that on the 3rd of December, Mercury will be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius. And with that, right after it, on the 5th of December, Venus will also be joining it in the sign of Sagittarius. And this will be happening in your 11th house. So this is a really, really good omen when it comes to the case of your finances, especially because, as I mentioned before, Jupiter in your second house definitely helps you to kind of catalyze and maximize your savings. And when both benefic planets of Venus and Mercury move into your 11th house of expanded financial gains, then definitely it's a really good omen for you to catalyze on these kind of profits that you can make and be able to increase your savings. So both of your money houses in astrology are getting affected by benefic planets, which is a great signification right now, wherein you can actually capitalize on the kind of money that you're making right now to increase it further. So it's a really good omen for that case as well. And all you can see that because of Venus and Mercury being there in your 11th house, this can also show the fact that you might be right now gelling really well with your extended network circle or your friend circle. And there might also be an instance where you might be planning to travel with them to like a far off place, possibly, and take a vacation with them. And there is also the possibility wherein you can actually be able to gain these kind of profits from the kind of network or connections you make with the people during this period. So these kind of significations are present here. And what we also see is that there's a possibility wherein you can be discussing your ideological or your philosophical, religious and spiritual beliefs with your network circle. And that can be like a places, like it can be the stage for you, like to be able to bond with people or to be able to connect with new sort of people as well and expand your network circle. So these kind of significations can be present here. And this can also possibly show the fact that while extending your friendship circle or your network circle, you might actually run into someone who you can romantically be interested in. And or you can be friends with someone and have the sort of feeling wherein you can start to develop feelings with them, kind of a thing. So these kind of possibilities are also present here. It's a really good time for you to definitely travel, to be able to monetize on gaining more money, and it's all in all a very good time for you to do those things. Now what happens next is on the 16th of December, we see that Sun is also going to be joining these two planets here in the sign of Sagittarius. So there's this conjunction again happening of this energy in your 11th house. So all the kind of significations we discussed up until this point regards to this transit happening in this house is only going to get further magnified and solidified by the presence of Sun also coming into your 11th house. Now, what we need to discuss next is that on the 28th of December, Mercury is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn. But we will not be discussing this in detail because it's a very insignificant transit wherein Mercury, though, is going into Capricorn, but it's not going to stay there. Although it's going to move retrograde just 2 days after it. So we will not be discussing a transit for 2 days, basically. Now, what we need to discuss next is that on the 29th of December, Venus will be moving into Capricorn. and this will be happening in your 12th house, wherein Saturn is already present. So here there is a possibility wherein you can possibly be at a loss of some money, or you might yourself charitably maybe give off to the lesser privileged people, and that is something that you would be interested in to indulge in your philanthropic sort of initiative. So that can also be the case, or you can yourself, if you're not indulging in those kind of ideals or actions, then definitely it can show that there is a possibility of you being able to have some sort of losses within your monetary functioning at this point, definitely. So you have to be careful regarding that. And also, like, technically, if you would like to kind of not do, like, have those kind of losses, it's much better to kind of be philanthropic and be able to dedicate or donate that money to people who need it at that point. It's a very good omen, like a very good practice to set for yourself, because it's the end of the year and maybe helping others out can help you financially. And if you're profiting itself, then it's never too bad to kind of help people who really need that help as well. So that kind of possibility can be present. And it can also show that if you have any sort of relationships or any sort of equations, romantic equations, which would have started before, around this time it could feel quite tedious to kind of continue those relationships, and there is a possibility wherein there is some sort of struggle that can come about with relation to how much give and take is basically happening in that sort of relationship, the kind of equations to balance those scales out. So that kind of theme presents itself with this transit. Now, the last transit which is happening for 2022 is on the 31st of December, wherein Mercury is going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, and this will be happening in your 11th house. So definitely all the kind of significations which had been positive regarding your 11th house will feel a little more challenging now. So in terms of your money and how you're managing your expanded financial gains, it can get a little difficult for you to kind of be able to capitalize on that. And even within the kind of extended friend circle or the network group that you have, you might run into ideological troubles with them. And there is also the possibility wherein you might get into some sort of verbal spats with people just because there are some sort of ideological differences or some sort of religious, spiritual, or philosophical differences with the people that you have around you right now. So those kind of challenges can also present themselves with the Mercury retrograde transit. And also, if you have any plans of any sort of impromptu travels with your friends or something of that sort during that time, I would definitely recommend against it. But if you can't avoid it, then definitely be prepared to have some sort of challenges with regards to how smoothly you would have wanted that trip to go, basically, because it can create these sort of challenges with regards to traveling when it comes to Mercury retrograde happening in such a significant house at that point. So these are the kind of significations for you during this period of time. I hope you have related to the predictions that have been shared in this video, and if so, then definitely leave your experiences in the comment section. I hope these kind of challenges dissipate for you, and hope you have a great year ahead. And thank you so much for watching. So Pisces, for you, let's see how this period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be turning out for you based on the planetary transits that are taking place during this period. So we see that on the 11th of November, Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And right after that, on the 13th of November, Mercury will also be transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And this will be happening in your 9th house. So these kind of benefic planetary transits happening through your 9th house can definitely show the possibility wherein if you were kind of indulged into some sort of let's say your philosophical or your religious or your spiritual beliefs might be right now going through a sort of transformatory phase wherein how you kind of relate to these beliefs and how that intertwines with your whole personality and your belief system itself is something which is basically in transformation right now. And that can be something that you will be willing to explore at this time. Then what we can also expect is that you might be right now interested to travel and explore further, just like living more in the moment and being able to also explore more cultures and being able to expand further on your belief system and your be it your religious or spiritual or philosophical beliefs. So these kind of themes can present themselves. Also, a very significant possibility is that if you are a student and you wanted to kind of have like a higher educational pursuit wherein you wanted to undertake a sort of course a little farther away from where you currently stay at, then this is also a very good time for you to consider working towards that and being able to achieve those aspirations as well. So it's a really good time for you to also aim high in that regard. What we also see is that on the 13th of November, Mars is going to be turning retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and this will be happening in your third house. Now, Mars being in the sign of Taurus has been like a transit which has quite a significant transitory period, because this started somewhere around September, October this year. And then briefly in the middle it changed signs, but now it's back in Taurus, and though it's still in retrograde motion now. So what do we see here is that there is a video which has already been released on the channel with regards to a detailed analysis of this transit, and it will be linked in the description box, and you can also check it out by clicking the I button on the upper right hand side of the video screen as well. But what can be the basic significations here is that in regards to the kind of aspirations you have regarding higher educational pursuits and things like that, you can definitely become very self-assured, and you can dedicate more and more hard work towards being able to achieve those aspirations. So you're not just right now dreaming, you're also working extremely hard to be able to achieve those aspirations and dreams as well. So that can be a possibility too, but there can also be some level of self-doubt there as well, wherein you kind of question your own efforts and the kind of work that you're putting behind attaining those things as well. So there can be this sort of dichotomy with relation to that. But what is significant to understand here is that Mars from your third house is going to be putting its direct aspect onto the ninth house. So there is definitely this sort of a thing wherein you can become quite vocal and ideate very instantaneously about the kind of desires you have with regards to your educational pursuits, and how you're quite vocal about what you want and what you don't want, and basically how you want to go about it and what are your dreams and aspirations. So you are not kind of tipping or beating around the bush at this point. You're trying to get to the point and being able to achieve everything that you are desiring at this point. So that can be the kind of results which can be presented here with this kind of an aspect. Also, there is a possibility that you actually do a lot of traveling during this time, and you're able to explore quite a lot, not just like in the materialistic sort of sense wherein you keep traveling and you visit these many countries in this many time. It's not that, but it's also on a very spiritual level. What are you learning during these travels, and what kind of knowledge and are you able to imbibe while traveling in these conditions and cases. So definitely that sort of thing is also present here. Now, what do we see also happening next is on the 16th of November, Sun will be transiting also in the sign of Scorpio. So all of this energy will be concentrated in your ninth house at this point. So all the kind of significations which were shared up until this point are going to only be further solidified and substantiated because of Sun's transit into the ninth house as well. So what do we see next is that on the 24th of November, Jupiter is going to be transiting in the sign of Pisces, and this is going to be happening in your first house of self. And this is quite a significant transit because Jupiter, up until this point, had been retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So the general level of self confidence or self assurance that you would have had could have been really dubious. But because the planet that rules your sign is now going to be deposited or is going to be transiting through your first house, it's a really great omen for you to kind of round off your personality, to be able to change and work upon your ideological beliefs, how you're basically dreaming, and what kind of dreams are you working towards achieving and aspiring for. So those kind of themes present themselves. Otherwise, also, there is a dedicated video which has been released previously on the channel regarding this aspect and this transit. You can definitely check that out in the description box, and also you can click the I button to figure out and understand more about this transit. But when you listen to this video, you have to understand that the significations which were shared in this video were regarding the retrograde transit of Jupiter. So whatever you hear in this video, you have to understand that all the significations which were challenging at that point are now going to turn positive, and it is going to be much more forward momentum based. So this is the kind of general theme that you can experience here. And what we also have to understand here is the fact that Jupiter from your first house is going to be aspecting your ninth house by its ninth aspect. So which is a very great omen with regards to your luck factor in cracking these kind of institutional exams and things like that, wherein you want to further your education pursuits. So it's a really good time for you to definitely work towards those things, and you will very well be able to even achieve those dreams of aspirations to, further your education, further your knowledge systems and things like that. So it's a really good time for you to achieve that and work and strive towards being able to work towards those things as well. Now that we have discussed what are the transits which will be taking place in the month of November, we will now move on to understanding what transits will be happening in the month of December. And we start out by seeing that on the 3rd of December, Mercury will be transiting in the sign of Sagittarius, and this will be happening in your 10th house. And right after that, Venus will also be joining Mercury in Sagittarius on the 5th of December. So both of these benefic planets are going to be present in your 10th house of your public perception and work. So this is a very good possibility wherein you are right now positively working towards being able to achieve your professional goals, to be able to basically transcend in your professional career as well, the kind of aspirations you have there as well. And people can be very well receiving your work or your ideals at work as well. And you can bring a breath of fresh air at this point towards your work systems and things like that. So it's a really good transit for you to also materialize on your goals with regards to your professional. What happens next is on the 16th of December, Sun also comes into your 10th house in the sign of Sagittarius. So all of this transitory energy which is happening in your 10th house is really good for you to right now focus on what kind of aspirations you have with regards to your work, and how do you basically want to go about attaining those things. And you will be very favorably looked upon by your superiors as well during this period. So what happens next is on the 28th of December, we see that Mercury will be transiting in the sign of Capricorn. But this is a very insignificant sort of a transit because it's only going to be there for 2 days, after which Mercury is going to turn retrograde. So we will not be discussing what happens when Mercury will be in Capricorn for 2 days. But what we will do is discussing the next transit which happens on the 29th of December, which is that Venus is going to be transiting in the sign of Capricorn. And this will happen in your 11th house, wherein Saturn is already transiting. So this can definitely show the prospect that there are certain themes with regards to your with regards to the money that you're making at this point, and you might be in a certain way maybe dissatisfied with the kind of gains you are having monetarily in your profession. So there can be a theme wherein you are right now becoming quite realistic with regards to what kind of profits you're making at work, how much you're able to make as a pay at work, and how would you like to rectify that situation. So that can be something which might be the central theme with this sort of a transit. This can also mean that you might have some sort of a reality check in terms of the kind of network circle you have at work, because it might seem like it's not as good as it seems to be. So it can be a little challenging at that point to also be basically exposed to the kind of reality of people around you. So that can also be a sort of a thing which can be experienced when this sort of transit happens in your 11th house as well. Also your general kind of repertoire, or the general kind of closeness with your friends, can be something that it might be a struggle right now. So that phase can feel a little isolating at this point, wherein you're not feeling as close with your network circle or friends because of the kind of things you might have come to know, or things like that, definitely. So that can be a theme which can be present here. And what happens next is the last transit which is happening for this year is on the 31st of December, wherein Mercury will be retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. And this will be happening in your 10th house. So this definitely shows again the fact that whatever sort of communications you're having at work and how basically people are perceiving your communicational skills might be working against you at this point, wherein there might be chances that people are misconstruing the kind of intentions or the kind of ideas or the communication you're having with regards to work, and that might be just fueling the fire that has already been created regarding your professional prospects and the kind of relationships that you have with the people that you're working with. So that can be something which might be a little challenging to come to terms with, especially during that time. And if you are possibly set to be taking any journeys with regards to your work during that time, I would definitely say to refrain that. But if you can't, then definitely be a little prepared with regards to how that trip might turn out, because it might not be all that it's cracked up to be, and there might be challenges with regards to the kind of efficiency you expected to have that sort of a trip and the kind of results you wanted to come out of it. So that is also a possibility that you would better be prepared for in some sort of way. And with that, these are the kind of significations which will be happening for you during this period that we have been discussing. And I hope you have related to some of the predictions which were shared, and if so, then definitely share your experience in the comment section below. And I hope these kind of troubles dissipate for you soon, and I hope you have a great year ahead, and thank you so much for watching. And with this, we come to the end of this video. After sharing all the predictions for each of the zodiac signs, we see how the period from the mid of November up until the end of December 2022 is going to be turning out for each and every sign. Also, just to remind you guys once again, there will be like a week or two of no videos which will be uploaded now. But from December 1st, I want to work towards uploading videos for the whole month regarding very detailed analysis of the yearly predictions for each and every sign for 2023. And I would love to see in the comment section your experiences being shared and the zodiac sign that you want me to start the analysis of the 2023 yearly predictions for. And that is when we will select whichever zodiac signs have been mentioned the most, and we will start out from that sign itself. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this period until the end of 2022 for you turns out stellarly, and I hope you have a great year up until 2022 and an even better year in 2023, which we will definitely discuss in detail from December 1st itself. And thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget once again to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your experiences below in the comments section, because it really means a lot when you share your experiences and when you show love to this channel. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with the next stream of videos. Until then, take care, you all.